Guys, you know what time it is. It's your boy David at the Irish Hotspot, Ireland's #1 Spurs fan. And this evening we are here to talk all things transfer deadline day. A lot to discuss, some outgoings. Still waiting on Pedro Porro to officially be announced by the club. Still waiting, can you believe it or not? 72 hours later, absolutely unbelievable. But look, there's a lot to talk about. Does the positives or does the negatives of the window far outweigh the positives in terms of business not done compared to business done? All the players we've got out on loan is becoming a major problem. 11, 12 players out on loan, over 200 million worth of players right there alone out on loan. So a lot to discuss today. Are you happy with the business? Would you prefer Emerson went out over Doherty? So much things to get into today. Look, I know it's going to be one of them where it's not controversial is the wrong word, but tensions are high. Some people believe it's a shit window, some people believe it's a good window. But like I said last night on the fan show, let's not label each other. This is important. Let's not label each other. Let's all discuss, explain, things like that. That's how we can all come out of these streams better, understanding things from other people who will maybe think differently to you a little bit better. So let's all keep it nice in the chat, guys. If we can, that would be unbelievable. But here tonight to help us get through a lot of the news from today is, of course, co-host Jack Kanicki and Phil. Jack, how are you, my man?
Doing okay, Dave. I heard you're fresh off a banger from We Are Time TV. And then as well, I'm looking to just see how maybe we sort of assess kind of this transfer window, because at least for me personally, I'll get into it in a lot more detail, but I think there are a lot of negatives in this one. There are definitely some positives too, but it's like you kind of brought up earlier. It's like, how many of those negatives, are there? Do they really outweigh the positives? And, what type of mixed bag sort of window is this? Like, is this the mixed bag that maybe Conte can find some semblance to work with? Like, can he turn it around? Is this maybe a window that can still transform the season in some shape or form? I don't know. I guess we'll look at it in hindsight, of course, down the road. But as we always do, Dave, we like to make those predictions ahead of time.
And look, I think the biggest thing coming out of this window, Jack, is when you look at our outgoings and our income, it's more or less from the first team 3 out, 2 in, a bit like last January, very the same as last January, in fact. Are we going to be, can the 2 in and the 3 out have a major impact on the squad like it did last January? Me personally, I find it hard to see that, but we'll get on to that into more detail. But I think that's probably the biggest question coming out of today. But Phil, how are you, my man?
Yeah, all good, Dave, all good. Look, the transfer window at the minute, I'm a little bit balanced on it. I think the Porro signing will be a good signing in the future. I think he'll be all right back for the next 4 or 5 years for me. I've seen quite a lot of him in the Portuguese league and the Champions League, and I like what I see. With the Danjuma signing, it's like a replacement for Brian Hill, basically. I think it's an upgrade at this point on Brian Hill. I do think Hill has potential, but I think he needed a loan because he needed the game time. Let's be honest. So, but yeah, I'm probably about 6.5 out of 10 at the minute. If we do managed to get a centre back in last minute, then that will jump up to about 8 for me.
Jeez, a higher rating than me, Phil. More people are getting more delusional than me lately. Maybe there's something wrong with me, I would say. Dermo more delusional, you're more delusional. Honestly, I'm building a list here. But no, look, we have plenty to discuss. I'm going to welcome some people in like we always like to do. Check in on people, get some people's thoughts up, and then we are going to crack into it. We have Sukhil Haraharan says we need to buy a centre-back or a cam. Look, centre-back is absolutely huge. We'll get into it. Chris says, hey, Dave and Jack, no longer in the WhatsApp group. Yeah, I get that, my man. I get it. Beat yourself up, Chris. Mark says, we have spent in the region of 7 million during this transfer window. Disgraceful. Waiting to see the record profits be made. Even Bournemouth have spent 70 million plus. And I think this is the biggest problem with people, is the amount we spent. 7.5, between 7 and 8 million anyway. It's absolutely pittance compared to what other clubs have spent. And you look at it you understand Bournemouth spend the money they do because they want to try and beat relegation. But you also want to try and win an FA Cup, go further in the Champions League and try and get top 4. So why aren't we spending that, if not more, you know? And I think this is a lot of people's problems. We've got Spursy Spurs says, sign Porro and Hincapié and it would be a good window. Look, no centre-back coming in. There's none. I'm not even going to tell people to get your hopes up. There's none coming in. Here. Dave Hall says, feel let down. I think a lot of people do, man. Lucas says, hello, lads. Big up, Luca. Hope you're keeping well, my man. Big up, Welsh guy. Good to see you in the building. I hope you're keeping well in Wales. Tony Austin, good to see you. Says, still no centre-back. Look, told everybody last night, don't even get your hopes up about centre-back. It's not happening. You know, the last rumour I seen was us linked to Hincapié, 25 million verbal offer, knowing that he's 3 years left in his contract. It's going to be about 50 million plus. But why not use that money to go and get someone like Sabani, who we were linked with before, by the way?
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, he goes to Bournemouth today for 24 million, 1 million less than the verbal offer we put in for Hincapié. Imagine that. Tottenham LSG, so Sanchez told the Evening Standard he may consider leaving the Tottenham Hotspur if he doesn't get more game time, since he fears the amount of time he's spending on the bench will impact his career. I mean, I think you would have realised that about 4 years ago, to be honest with you. It's 4 years too late. Tough
I thought he said the opposite last week, Dave. I thought he said the opposite, that he was reluctant to leave. Apparently he's, moving the goalposts all of a sudden, Sanchez. The moment the transfer, window ends, he's now saying, he was happy to leave.
It's a joke. It's an absolute joke is what it is. THFC till I die. Big up Dermotron. I hope you're keeping well, my man. He says, as the window shuts again, we again not getting in a centre-back or a cam, but we won't get all our business done in one window, but I feel the summer window we will get the centre-back and the cam. From now on, it's in Conte we trust, and come on, you Spurs. Look, Dermot, on this, my man. I mean, I thought it would have happened this January, Last summer, it's like, okay, we got so much done, I can accept that. But then surely you're going into this January addressing that issue, especially since it's become more noticeable than what it was coming out of the summer transfer window. Still haven't done it. Look, we better get in centre-backs this summer. We were told 2 centre-backs this summer, and with how long I've had to wait, they goddamn better be world-class centre-backs. Guys that walk in here and an immediate improvement. I'm talking a Gavardiol, I'm talking a Bastoni. It better be of that calibre.
Can I add to that, Dave?
Yeah, just one second. Yeah. Phil, as for a cam, look, I see a lot of people saying cam. I told you guys in the summer, scoring goals at Tottenham is not a problem. We score goals. We cannot keep them out. 21 games this season, scored 40, so we scored 2 a game, but we've conceded 31, so you're conceding 1 or 2 every single game. This backline is not good enough. Look into the stats. It's mainly a centre-back. Cam, I'm not even fussed about this window. You can look at that in the summer once we've addressed goalkeeper and centre-backs. We've got to look on the urgent issues, and centre-back is that issue. We cannot keep them out. You go across the backline. You've got Dyer, failed centre midfielder. Davies, failed left back, now a left-sided centre-back. Our defence, some of our defenders aren't even natural centre-backs. That's how much of a big problem it is. And look, I'm going to go more into it because we have done nowhere near enough investment since Toby and Jan, but it's just not good enough. But forget the cam. It's the centre-back we should be fucking worried about. This is going to come back and haunt us. We get to an FA Cup semi-final or final, you can guarantee you're going to beat Man United or you're going to play Man United or Man City, right? We've already seen this season. They can't hold out. They don't know how to hold out against these bigger teams. So how are we going to win a cup if we can't defend against them? Champions League, if we beat AC Milan, we go into the quarters, you're going to come up against the best of the best. Our backline's going to be embarrassed. We're going to get knocked out of that, either AC Milan or the quarterfinals because we can't keep goals out the back of the net. The top 4 race. We beat all the teams below us, but what are we going to do when we come up against the teams above us? Last season, we were able to get top 4 because we've done the job against some teams above us, like Liverpool, like Man City in the run into the end of the season. Do you think this backline's going to do it this time round? I don't. And it could end up costing us Champions League. And look, the reality is we can all sit here, we can rate these windows, everything else. But we're only realistically going to get our answers in the summer. But I can guarantee you this summer, we're all going to be looking back at it and go, if only we address the centre-back issue. And this is where the problem lies. We always come out of a window, never, ever, ever fully ready to hit the ground running and go, do you know what? We've got everything. We've done everything we can. We've ticked off all the boxes. We're ready to go. Let's make a fucking good stab at this. And we don't do that, and it's every single window. You look at the amount of business we've done in the summer. What was the point of it? If you're not going to continue to do it the right way this January, no one inside that football club can tell me there's not enough money knocking around for a centre-back. You can't. If we have 25 million verbal offer for Hicapie and we've been linked with some centre-backs this January, you can't tell me there's not 25 million there to go and get somebody else in. It's absolutely shambolic, but sorry, Phil, you wanted to come in on this.
No, that's all right, mate. That's all right.
No.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, I fully believe Conte thinks. Well, he's already said that he doesn't need centre backs. He's said it multiple times in press conferences, and I fully believe he's got enough in the squad now to get top 4 over the line and maybe get a trophy this season. So, all that being said, I think summer next year will be a pivotal time to get these centre backs in to get us to that next level. So, I think that's what he's thinking at the minute, is that his squad is good enough to meet the expectations that we had at the start of the season, and I fully believe that we can do that and get that over the line. It's just, in the summer, they have to get these centre backs in for next year to challenge for honours, to challenge for trophies.
I think where it's maybe most frustrating is, at least for how I see it, sort of, Dave and Phil, is when you sort of look at maybe Newcastle, right? They brought in Eddie Howe, who's normally, I think earlier, been a very attacking manager when he was over at Bournemouth, right? He had that very kind of nice football there. But I think he even knew himself that in order for him to really actually challenge and really achieve maybe what Newcastle want to be achieving, he had to actually build from the back first. He had to actually improve the defense and bring in the best defenders possible, or at least that he thought he could work with, in order to then get the best results. And then he can maybe improve the attack first. So it shows that even an attacking manager over at Newcastle with Eddie Howe improved the defense really more so than he really improved the attack first. And I think that's what's frustrating that we've seen over at Spurs, is that we have a very skilled defensive manager in Antonio Conte. One's kind of like Jose, who knows a defense better than anybody else. And yet we're improving other areas more than we are improving the defense. But yet you see attacking managers that are more willing to improve the defense more so than other areas of the pitch. That's where it's left to where you're kind of scratching your head a little bit.
But as well, to touch on that, I hear this all the time. Conte hasn't said he doesn't need centre backs. He has said it. We've been told by ITKs that he wants centre backs. In fact, an ITK only put out yesterday, deal for Hicapie is not going to be done this January. It'll be looked at in the summer, but Conte wants centre backs. We were told going into this January transfer window off ITKs that he wants centre backs. He alluded to it himself in the press conference after the North London derby. He was asked, why don't you press high? And he says, well, I have to do what's best for the attributes of my defenders. There, it tells you from that comment alone that the guy needs centre backs. You've got to remember, this guy's Italian. He's brought up with the Italian way, Italian football. What are they famously known for? From when I was a kid all the way through to now, and same as my father when he was a kid all the way through to now, is their defence. No one can tell me Antonio Conte is walking in here and saying that defence is good enough. It's bullshit. People that want Conte to come out and say, he hasn't come out and said it in a press conference. Why would he? He knows he's not getting them. And he has to rely on Dyer, on Sanchez. You can't go, Moosehead fucking headed ball down at the Mo Salah's path. I'm sick of him. I want a new centre-back. Because the reality is, he has to pick him for the next game. And if it's not him, it's Sanchez. If it's not Sanchez, it's Davies. And these defenders have let us down time and time and time again. Let's stop pretending Conte doesn't want centre-backs. It's not true. He does want centre-backs. The problem is he can't come out and say it because he knows he's not getting any. And then in terms of, if he comes out and be's mean to them, then they're going to cost him his job and he's out of here. And I know Spurs fans are saying, well, we want him to come out and say it. Well, guess what? Jose Mourinho came out and said it. And what did Spurs fans say then? You can't do that. You're too mean. He has to rely on them. Why would you say it? So why 3 years later are we asking Conte to do something that Spurs fans weren't happy when Jose was doing it? You can't have it. The reality is this defence has been a huge problem since Toby and Jan. We haven't put enough money into it. It's been costly. It's cost us time and time again. Even when we do get into good opportunities in the cup, we get knocked out of it because they're not good enough. We just got to accept we need centre-backs. By pretending Conte doesn't want any defenders, it's just covering up the issue yet again, and it's still going to persist and persist and persist. We've got to get to grips. If you want to be able to win games, you've got to keep goals out of the back of the net. You look at the team. What's the difference from Pochettino's team? We still got a lot of the same forward line, but the back line is the worst of Pochettino's team. And that's the truth of it. It's the worst of the backups from Pochettino's backline. And we're trying to make them form a cohesive unit, and we just won't take no for an answer. We need centre-backs at this football club. Let's stop pretending Conte doesn't want them. He's Italian. He knows he needs centre-backs.
Yeah. Still no Porro announcement yet from the club yet either, which is a little confusing on that department. Dermatron, big up, my man. And we also have Paul Osber in the house. Paul, how are you, brother?
Hey, how you going, man?
Keep well.
Keeping well,
Yeah,
Paul?
good to see you, folks.
Not
bad. Just looking at the excitement of the next couple of hours.
No excitement whatsoever. None whatsoever. But look, Paul, you heard us speaking there. Just quickly, what do you make of Dermot's super chat here? I'll bring it back up where he's talking about, a decent window, but centre backs we're going to do it in the summer. But I get where Dermot's coming from, and you kind of look at the way the squad is shaped up, the business we've done the last few windows. You say defence, goalkeeper are probably the last areas you sort of need to upgrade. But how many times do we have to keep kicking the can down the road, Paul? Well, Paul, I think you're
saying. Sorry, I couldn't hear that.
Oh,
hello.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Can you hear me?
Log out and log back in.
Yeah. All right, cool, man.
Cool. And we'll get Paul back on that. But sorry, Jack, over to you, my man.
Well, I think, we're going to get through the chat maybe a little bit here, Dave, and then get through a bit of questions maybe on this show. But everybody do hit that like button while you're in here. I just want to say hello to some people that have joined us. Big yourself up, Dermatron. And I do agree with everything you've brought up there, my man. When it comes to a cam, for me, maybe James Madison was twerking for us a little bit, so we probably could have taken a look at that. But I wasn't as much obsessed about the cam. I was more obsessed about the center back, especially seeing how other teams who also needed a center back similar to us were able to bring in some of those sort of kind of emergency, let's say, signings, or some of those signings that were there to sort of improve the team right away. But I guess we'll get into it with some of the good questions that we have lined up for later. Dermatron, big up, my man.
Big up, Dermot. Really appreciate the support, my man. Paul, you're back with us.
Bo, is that better?
Brilliant. Yeah, I just want to get your thoughts on Dermot's super chat here, my man, where he's saying about the centre back and the cam in the summer. And in essence, I was saying that, Paul, he's right, because when you look at the business we've done the last while, right, it's kind of, you look at it, centre backs and goalkeeper is the only areas you would think need serious addressing going into the summer transfer window. But how many times do we have to keep kicking the can down the road on this issue?
It's never ending. I mean, we've let in over 30 goals. It's obvious, isn't it? We've let in over 30. We're scoring enough. We're just letting them in. Now, maybe, if I'm going to be optimistic, I'd say maybe Porro, if his defensive chops are up to it, maybe that would just, tip us over the line and get the rest of the defenders firing in a good way. Or if Porro is good attacking, maybe we're just going to hope we score more goals than we concede. So maybe those two things could work. But I don't know, man. I mean, I'm not even really worried about like an attacking midfielder. Centre backs and a goalkeeper. It's crazy, isn't it? We've got one defender, man. One and a half. I'll give Davies a half.
It's just I just have a feeling it's going to come back to cost us before the season's out. But look, Jacko, over to you, my man.
Should we just go into the questions, Dave? I think I was going to welcome in a few people into the house. Just want to welcome in Wayne Bonner here saying, Levy focusing on one transfer and putting all his eggs in one basket rather than getting stuck in from day one and getting the main problems of our defense sorted. Levy's an unfunny joke. There's no levity to it whatsoever in the case of Daniel Levy. But what I would say is I think maybe Paratici perhaps has taken, a bit of he's hindered maybe this transfer window a little bit with maybe some of his sort of court dealings and things like that. I feel like Wayno, at least that's how I sort of seen it, because if there is there doesn't seem to be much of an excuse for Spurs not being a bit more proactive, because they also had that World Cup where basically they weren't really doing much of anything. There weren't any games happening. It was kind of all quiet over there. They could have really thought about doing a lot of things ahead of time, especially maybe when it came to other transfers, not even the Porro deal. When it came to other transfers, that's how I sort of see it, my man. Just want to say hello to Mark New as well. Good to see him, my man. Ricky Nato's in the house. Faz Radfar, big up, lads. I still see some positives move in the window, but in Levy's style, long and last minute. Glad we have Porro in, though. I guess when we were talking to the back end, when we had the chance of losing Porro, we were very, maybe just, happy just to see that come through. But now that we really do look at it with a bit of bird's eye view, I think we know we need a lot more fast. And then Ben Kaufman saying 2 out of 10 transfer window. It's gotten worse in his head. There you are, Ben. But I guess we'll get into it because we do have a good question lined up for it. Jerome saying wasted 1 month on one player and only address one positional issue. Should have tried to get a center back. It feels like maybe are we putting a lot of pressure on Pedro Porro? Do you think, Phil, is a lot of it maybe kind of hinged on him sort of kind of transforming this season, where had we maybe spread, brought in a center back, maybe plugged, and fixed some other areas of the squad, maybe we could have actually been able to have more of a chance of maybe getting more out of this team. But is a lot of it now hinging on Pedro Porro to really change this team and turn it around?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's going to improve us a lot. Definitely going forward. Yeah, I think I do think this squad needs a couple of additions just to freshen up the squad. I think a couple of signings can galvanise the group as well, which I think Danjuma and Pedro will. Pedro is a quality right wing back. He's going to, bring a lot of attributes to the table, and I think he will make an impact straight from the off.
Yeah, I feel like, at least for me, I'm a little bit worried that we're, putting all that pressure on him personally. I do feel like a right wing back, was seen as the top priority this window. I do understand that. But what about you, Paul? Do you think a lot of pressure is now going to be put on Pedro Porro to kind of sort of turn this team around?
Oh, he can only do what he can do, can't he? I don't know if it's additional pressure on him. I mean, if if Moon Boots and Captain Flappy just do their usual, there's not a lot Porro can do about that, is there? So he seems eager to. Look, hang on a minute. Is it a done deal? Because I've not seen that it's actually.
Fabrizio has given the third "here we go" as we speak, but I think Spurs we're still waiting for Spurs to release any pictures.
I don't know. I don't know. Fabrizio's like he's copping a feel at the cinema. I think he shot off too quick a couple of times there. I'm waiting for the final 100%.
I was told earlier on today at 3 o'clock everything was done and dusted, tied up, and then dragging out all day.
I was hearing that all the paperwork was being signed at 8 o'clock, and it was going to get confirmed straight after that.
Yeah, but when do you ever hear, they're signing a contract at this time? That's what I mean. It was not earlier, but they're dragging it out all day.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah, it is a little bit worrying. There's only an hour and a half left.
No, it's done. Deal's done.
Yeah. I think the deal is done, but it's just we're waiting for Spurs to release the actual pictures of till they're holding the shirt, maybe crowd can be very satisfied, and so everybody's then happy. I think, at the end of the day. Big up though, Jerome. And what I would say is I think the center back, like I brought up, maybe and asked the lads here, I think it puts a lot more pressure on the other signings to sort of kind of, be able to be real transformative sort of players to our season here. But I think we're going to get straight into the questions here, everybody. We're going to kind of ask around, sort of summarize and analyze kind of this window and sort of how it maybe looks, how the rest of the season looks in general too, everybody. So do hit that like button, please, while you're in here. First question of the day is, and maybe Dave, I'll just start with yourself. 3 out and 2 in after this window shuts. Do we look stronger or weaker?
Look, I think to put a positive spin on it, I think, yes, I think we're stronger coming out of the window than what we were going into the window for sure. I truly believe Porro is that level of player that he's going to make that much of a quality of a difference down the right-hand side to how we are going forward. I also think he alleviates, us being a team pressing us over on the right-hand side with Romero and with Porro there. So there's plenty of pluses to the Porro deal. I think bringing in Danjuma, we needed another body up in the forward area, someone that Conte trusts to bring off the bench to make an impact in games. So I think when you look at it in that aspect, it's positive. And I think the three out, when you look at Gill, needed game time. Conte didn't really trust him enough to give him the game time. And the fact that Danjuma came off the bench before him against Preston told him everything he needed to know. So it's good to get him out on loan rather than keeping him around stagnating. The same as Jed Spence. Doherty's gone, which everybody knows I had a huge problem with that guy. Thank fuck he's out here. So yes, I do think that we are stronger coming out of the window. But like I said, it's the positions we neglected that will come back to haunt us. But to answer your question, yes, we are stronger.
What do you think, Paul? After this window shuts, are we looking stronger, looking weaker?
Yeah, I agree with David there. I think we are stronger. Danjuma is an upgrade on Hill and Lucas, and Porro, if it happens, is an upgrade on Doherty. And I'm glad we got rid of Doherty rather than Emerson because, I think Doherty and Porro are probably too similar a player, except Doherty's shit. If you know what I mean. So Emerson's more of a defender. So if you want to do a substitution or vary your tactics, you want a player that's different to Porro, and I think Emerson's more like that, even though he's still a bit going. But yeah, I look marginally stronger, but still disappointing. Still disappointing. It's again, we're so bloody close, and like if we'd have signed two centre backs or a centre back and a goalie and no one else, I would have been probably happier with that because it's the 31 goals that's the problem we're letting in.
And also as well, because we continue even with a team that everybody has called negative to watch, horrible to watch, right? Unsatisfying, all those sort of things. We still are kind of scoring goals by the looks of things, Paul, but it's just more that we keep leaking them.
Yeah, and I see. I'm still not convinced about that whole. It's a bad style of play. I just think we're shit sometimes.
Just bad players. Yeah.
It's nothing to do with even if you take like Italian football, like Dave was saying earlier, Italian defensive football. If that's done right, it doesn't have to be boring. It's not my particular cup of tea, but you can still see it's good football. And what Tottenham have been doing is not good football this year. So I don't think you can really blame the tactics or things like that. It's just the personnel on the pitch haven't been up to it.
What do you think, Phil? 3 out, 2 in. Where do we look now? Are we looking stronger, looking weaker? By the sound of your kind of transfer window rating, it sounds like you're thinking we're looking stronger.
Yeah, I think we are looking stronger. I think with that partnership with Romero and Porro, I think they can form a good partnership on that right side and make us stronger. I think with people saying negative play or negative style of play, I think Porro can improve on that and make us look at a better team attacking wise. With Danjuma, he's a good addition. Someone coming off the bench, an impact player. So I think we are looking stronger, but not as much as I would like.
Yeah. The one thing for me, lads, is that I think with the players that we moved out, apart from Brian Hill, I think was completely okay. Like for me, I didn't think there was much of a point for Matt Doherty any longer with Pedro Porro coming in. He was kind of, originally the more attacking wingback. Now Pedro Porro is the more attacking wingback, like Paul said. Then now Emerson kind of fills the role as the more defensive one. With the likes of Jed Spence, he's only really played maybe an hour's worth of football total, like in this whole season. 41 minutes in total this whole season. I even, overguessed or overestimated. And it just shows that he really doesn't have much of a role in this team whatsoever in the time being. But I do think we might have become slightly weaker, even though I know we do kind of plug Hill Messi a lot on this channel. I do think we became slightly weaker with Hill going, because I think he did serve as that sort of creative kind of replacement for Kulusevski in case Kulusevski picks up another injury of another kind. Like, who do we really put out at right wing kind of confidently to fill that, creative void? And I think Hill showed that he could do it. So I feel like we might be slightly weaker with letting him go, actually.
We are. I see what you're saying. You want two for every position. You can't rely on Lucas. But at the end of the day, if we're looking to develop this guy, you've got to put him out there, Jack. You've got to loan him out. It's like you've got to sacrifice the short term, hopefully, for a long term game when it comes to Brian Hill.
And I guess everybody's hoping for Dan Juma to be able to play both sides, I guess, too.
Yeah, I think Lucas scored in a reserve game, didn't he? Under 21 game on his comeback. So hopefully he can, get back to, playing some good football again.
Yeah.
I hope so. I do hope so. Well,
I think Dan Juma had a nice little cameo against Preston. He looked more of a player than Hill to me. He looked nice and busy. He was shouting at the players for the ball. Scored a goal. I thought he looked. I think he looked all right. So never heard of the guy before, but I think he seems to be a better backup option for one of our top three have a little niggle or something like that. I'd prefer to see so far Dan Juma than a Hill or a Lucas Moura.
I think for me personally, I would have rather seen Lucas go and then maybe keep Hill, but I do understand the need to also keep developing Hill so that one day he is actually ready to come into this team. But
he's your boy, man, isn't he? He's your boy, Jack.
Me and Wayne Bonner here, we're protecting the Hill Massey prophecy over here on this channel, Paul, that's for sure. But when it comes to some of the guys that we did send out on loan, guys, are we going to be seeing them ever in a Spurs shirt again? Doherty, Spence, Hill. What do we think, Paul? Like, any of these that, maybe could still have a future at the club one day?
Well, we're still waiting for another load of good loans to return, like overdue red electricity bill or something. So if we let out Doherty, I'm not fussed on whether he comes back, but hopefully not. Spence, I don't know, man. You hear of it, you're hearing things about his attitude in training, and maybe his other people getting involved. I don't know. I don't know about Spence and Hill. Well, he's it's the same story again. He'd go off on loan to a Spanish club. I don't think didn't really make any difference to him last time. So I think Hill will come back and Spence will come back. Doherty. I don't know why Atletico have borrowed him, but if he does well, hopefully they'll sign him.
They have a taste in Tottenham Hotspur fullbacks. I mean, it's not a good taste. That's what I would say. Phil, what do you think? Hill, Spence, Doherty, any of these guys still have a chance, one day, playing for this team consistently?
I don't think Doherty will see in a Spurs shirt again, to be honest with you. I'm quite surprised that Atletico Madrid went in for him, to be honest with you. But yeah, I don't think he'll be coming back to Tottenham. Spence, I think that's a good move for him at Rennes, with Joe Road on there as well. Hopefully he can get the game time. I think he'll come back next season. With Hill, I think he's a hot prospect for us. I think he'll get that game time over in Spain, and I think he'll be a better player for it. The only thing I would say is that if there's a manager change, will these players be in the thoughts of the new manager next season? That's the one thing I would say about it.
That's why. Do you know what, Phil, though? That's why I reckon the likes of Spence and the likes of Hill, the likes of White, who's also gone on loan to Derby County there this evening.
Yeah.
No buy options for them. It's just a straight loan to the end of the season. And that's why I fear, look, Conte's gone in the summer. I've said this before. I think it's a margin of convenience. Conte will probably go in the summer. And someone like Potts will come in. And that's why they haven't, put an obligation to buy on any of them being loaned out. Look, Doherty, I think you've got to look at it now. Porro will come in, show up Matt Doherty for what he really is. You've got Emerson already kept around as the backup, which Doherty's days are numbered. He's 30 going on 31 now, so he's finished at Tottenham, completely done. Jed Spence, I believe we're putting him out on loan so that he'll come in next season and he will probably play back up to Porro, in my opinion. Gil, I'll be honest, I was looking at his quotes about, his loan move. I'm not so sure he's going to be here beyond the summer. I think if Sevilla come in for an offer, I think he'll go, because this Sevilla loan move was on the cards most of January. He just didn't say anything. But he also spoke about his love for the club, his love for Spain, being back there, this, that, and the other, and maybe him not getting minutes at Tottenham, the physicality of the Premier League compared to La Liga. I just fear by looking at his quotes, I think we might have seen the last of this kid in the Tottenham jersey. I hope not, because I think he's supremely talented, and I think we'll regret letting him go. Like I said, I think he'll be one of the latest ones where, we were rumoured to want to bring Madiwaki back when we let him go for free in the first place, same as Marcus Edwards, and I fear Gil will end up falling into that category. And I don't want him to go, but I fear by looking at his words, there's maybe a hint of a good buy in there.
Yeah, maybe if they stump up the cash, that sort of recoups the fee that we originally paid for him. That's how I sort of see it, is that we did kind of, at the end of the day, put up a healthy fee for it. And so it's probably just whether a club can kind of, throw up that similar cash to sort of kind of, so we can, not have as big of a loss, let's say, on it. So I think that's how they might structure it. And
there's no option to buy, is there, in that deal?
No,
there's
none
none
at all.
None of them.
So they would have to go back into some sort of negotiation and maybe try to renegotiate, maybe bring him again or something like that. But it'll be interesting. I think all he wants to do is just play. I think that's all he wants to do, is just play football at the end of the day. Compared to some of the players that are actually happy to be on the bench at this team, he's actually, eager to play, which is a good sign here. Ian Cook with the super sticker just saying, good job. Appreciate it, Ian, and my man. I really do appreciate your support, brother. Anybody else, feel free to keep throwing in your comments. And if you do want to support the channel, throw it in as a super chat as well. Do hit the like button. But we are going to get into some more questions here. Yeah, Dave.
Just quickly, Jack, a tweet just I'm not sure how true it is, but maybe something to keep an eye on. Matt Doherty to Atletico Madrid could currently be stalled due to FIFA rules.
FIFA rules.
Yeah, so Tottenham are reportedly loaning Doherty to Atletico Madrid, but already have Gil, Lo Celso, Ndombele, Regulon, Gordon, Doherty, Spence, and Weeks on international loans, putting them at FIFA's limit of 8. How would they make Doherty work without going over the limit?
They might have to turn it into a transfer of some kind.
Yeah.
I don't think he's worth very much in the first place, to be honest, Doherty.
10 million, maybe.
I mean, that's generous, honestly. I must be honest, Phil. I think he's worth like 5 million, maybe even less than that, to be fair. I mean, I don't know how much you would pay for a 32-year-old, kind of slightly injured right wing back. I just don't know how much you pay for a guy like that. So I must be honest. Maybe they try to take the hit and just let him go permanently.
I don't know how much that loan is, what his wages are. I think he's on about 70 grand a week, isn't he? So are they paying his wages?
Oh, yeah, the loan club usually pay the wages, or they pay a percentage of the wages. But, the problem is we've already got 8 on loan, and then we've reached the international limit. So how do we loan them Matt Doherty? And I wouldn't say that Atletico Madrid are ready to stump up a fee, because they didn't for Regulon. So do they have that cash there to stump up from? So we may very well find Matt Doherty back at Tottenham Hotspur tomorrow morning. Let's wait and see how it pans out. If I was Tottenham, I'd look to cancel his contract and just say, just go. Just go. Get out of here. You're shit.
Speaking of this kind of loan situation that we find ourselves in, lads, I mean, we have basically close to a full 11 of players, I feel like, out on loan. Do you reckon the majority of them need to be sold this summer? And did Spurs maybe loan out these players to try and recoup possibly a bigger fee in the future? Like, what's sort of the rationale with loaning out all of these guys? Dave, I might start with yourself.
Yeah,
actually.
please,
what do you think? Like, why is it that? What's the logic? It's a 2-part question. What's the logic behind loaning out all of these guys in the first place? And do you think they will try to sell a lot of them in the summer?
There's three-part things to this, Jacko. The first one is there's just no interest in them. There's no interest in them whatsoever. You can't sell them to a club that doesn't want to sanction the money to buy them. When they haven't performed in the Tottenham jersey, why would you expect a club to come in and take that risk on some of the fees we've paid on some of these guys to be able to take them to their club when there's a guarantee that they might not perform there as well? So they're always with some of the bad apples we've had and with how many we've acclimatized, clubs are only ever going to come in on loan with a hope of getting them over there and turning them over and then maybe sending a transfer fee for them. But the reality is we slapped what we all said 30 million for Ndombele in the summer. No problem. Easy peasy. Reality is it wasn't. Everyone said, nah, Dave, you're an idiot. Winks isn't that bad. 20 million for sure. Guess what? We couldn't get a transfer fee for Winks. We couldn't get a transfer fee for Reguilon. Same for Lo Celso. Yeah, at Tottenham, we will always sit there and go, oh, there's a player in there. What if we do this? And what? Because we're forced to as fans, because we don't get transfers at the rate that other clubs do to turn this problem and this shit over as quick as we can. But the reality is outside of Tottenham, and Jack, me and you have always said this, outside of Tottenham, there is no interest. Who's going to look at their midfield and go, do you know, I've got a huge problem. Defensively especially. Let's bring in Ndombele. Never going to happen. I've got a huge problem with creativity. Let's bring in Lo Celso. Why? I've got a big gaping hole in my midfield. Let's bring in Harry Winks. The reality is, outside of Tottenham Hotspur, there's no interest in these guys. Second, they're on big wages and we pay big money for them. We're trying to recruit them. We're trying to recruit some of the fee we paid on them. But as well, offloading their wages to other clubs because players don't want to take a hit on their wages. It's harder. It's harder said than done. So, we have no option but to loan them out. But also the pandemic, it took a lot of clubs outside of England around Europe took a massive hit. And the same money just isn't there around Europe. And they're the only clubs that you potentially might be able to offload them to. So there's a three-part thing to it. But the reality is they're just not good players. They're just not good enough. No one identifies a position in their squad and go, yeah, sanction that money, get him in, he's the answer. Because they know how bad they've been. Bad on the football pitch, some of them bad attitudes, some of them just don't care, some of them just are not good. And this is the problem we have, Jack.
Why do you think it is, Phil, that we have just this many players out on loan in this moment of time? Like it's nearly a full 11 at this stage.
I'm puzzled with it, to be honest. How many players we've got on loan?
Is it a reflection? Is it maybe Levy as well as? Is it maybe a reflection of directors of football? Maybe Paratici could do a better job about moving them on, but could it also be maybe the ownership not willing to take maybe take the cut, or not willing?
Maybe That's what I was going to say. Maybe it's the valuation. Maybe it's the valuation of the players that we're putting on these players.
They don't want to take any loss.
Yeah, exactly. And we all know what Levy's like. He wants to get every penny back from his players that he's bought that have been flops. So it's going to be a long-winded process to get these players out. Let me tell you.
It's almost like we've been kicking the can down the road here, and then now it's kind of piling up and piling up and piling up now with kind of all these players that we do kind of, like we probably admit, all really don't have much of a future here. Like I even can kind of make a bit of a list here, actually, everybody. We have the likes of Ndombele, Reguilon, Lo Celso, Winks, Hill, Spence, Doherty, Rodon, Whiteman. Like you maybe only have hope for one or two players there that might actually still have some chance of wearing the shirt in the future. Why do you think it's come to this stage, Paul? How do you think it's come to this?
Oh, it's just a mess, isn't it? I mean, how long have some of these Muppets got left on their contract? Are they all on like 5-year contracts or something? Because if surely it'd be worth just getting rid of them for $1 million or nothing, rather than having them hang around and winding down their contracts, and then they'd be going on freeze anyway. Like for example, like Winks or Ndombele, how many years have they got left before we could just cut them loose?
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah, I'm with you 1,000%.
But it also has a knock-on effect on business that we can bring in, because you're talking with them 12 players there. You're talking at least 300,000 on the wage bill. You're talking over 230 million worth of talent there. Imagine if you could sell some of them off the wages. You got a clean deck. You can start bringing in players for big money on big wages, which is what this team needs. But we can't do it because of these guys. But this is the problem, Jack. At some stage, you've got to act ruthless. You've just got to say, look, okay, we can't find a club for you. No problem. You go and find one. Instruct your agent to go and find one, because guess what? This season, you're playing with the under-23s. No loan move, nothing like that. You're playing with the under-23s. Now get your agent to find you a move. We'll take 10 million for you. We get them to make it happen, because they're well able to get their agents in to negotiate new contracts, all this other thing. But the club need to be putting more pressure on these players to get out if they're not in a rush to get out. But we also have to accept to take a bit of a loss. But that's 230 million wasted, which if we would have spent that right, we wouldn't be in this position today. It's also, a lot of wages wasted. So that then you wonder why. Well, why can't we get into the free market and act for free signings? Because whether you like it or not, every club operates under a wage structure and very rarely break that over the course of the season. I don't like it. I would like to break it. But the reality is, no, barely any clubs do that. But this is your problem right here, Jack. The 12 players out alone. 4 of them have a future. 4. Scarlett, Harvey White potentially, Parrott potentially, Spence and Gill. So that's 5. But the others, you're talking what? Another 6, 7 players there? It's just not good enough, Jack. We've got to get them gone at all costs, because they're putting up the squad.
The recruitment there is proof in the pudding there, isn't it? How bad our recruitment is.
Yeah.
With all them players that we're trying to get out. Just says everything to you.
How important is it, though, Phil, then, that we take a loss, this summer and realize that we need to sell a lot of these players basically at all costs? Because by selling these players, you actually free up that squad space in order to bring in new ones, because that's what sort of, I think, has been the problem here, is that we kind of just keep kicking the can down the road. And then we find ourselves with this predicament every single window where it's like, we need to sell players in order to bring in players. And it's just this kind of mess every single time. Like, do you feel like with 11 players now out on loan, it couldn't be more obvious that they kind of just have to take the loss? They kind of just have to sort of just sell some of these guys at all costs this summer.
I just want to add to that quickly before Phil comes in. But Jack, the problem is, once they're gone, you've got another bunch to go. Dyer, Sanchez, Davies. So, you still got more in the squad that aren't loaned out yet. So, you talk potentially still 15, 16 players.
But it's going to be a long-winded process for me. It's going to be like, maybe 2 players in January, 2 players in the summer. Then we're going to replace the ones that we're getting rid of. It's going to be, it ain't going to all happen in the summer transfer window. With all these players gone, for me, I don't think it's going to happen that way.
But Phil, why can't we? Because somewhere along the line we
take a hit.
We can't keep going through windows, only bringing in a couple and still leaving ourselves short because we're clogged up with a lot of these guys. We can't keep doing it. At some stage, someone has to come in here and say, no, end off. We're going to get this sorted out once and for all, this window. If it means we have to cancel contracts, we fucking cancel them. It doesn't matter. But we can't keep going on like this because it's hindering us.
Massively important. It's massively important. We need to get these players out as soon as possible, because we need to freshen this squad up and get better players in. And if we have to take a hit on these players, then so be it. Levy just needs to give his head a bobble.
You see Levy taking a hit on some of these players, taking a loss on some of these players, Paul, in the summer?
Well, we have to either way, because if we don't, then they're going to be hanging around, and like I said, then they'll be going away on a free anyway. So you've done your dough on your asset value there anyway. Mm-hmm. So if you do it now, you're taking the hit earlier, but it's the same hit. I'm sure they've got a book value or something like that that's been wound down, and
it's like a problem they don't want to face, sort of thing. Like they just kind of keep pushing it, further down.
I think that the board tend to just look 3 feet in front of them, all the time. It's like 1 week or 1 quarter in advance. It's not. There's nothing long term there at all. It's just about immediate, accounting jiggery pokery. Looking at the players we've got on loan, is that Tottenham's business model now, that we buy players that aren't good enough to get into the top 11, but we'll loan them out in the hope that will put their value up a little bit, and we'll flog them, even though they've never worn a Spurs shirt in anger for any lengthy and productive period of time. So we've got to take the hit on them. But it's
actually funny. We just did, in fact, with the case of Matt Doherty. I just got some news that Spurs have mutually agreed to the termination of Matt Doherty's contract to enable him to join another club. So this is kind of what we're
play.
talking about here, Paul. This is exactly what we're referring to. We need to be seeing this happen in the summer. We probably would have liked to have seen this happen maybe in January to a few more players. But is this a good example of what we need to be seeing happen more in the summer, right? These sort of kind of deals where it's like, if nobody wants to really come in for them, if nobody really wants to throw any money at these guys, just find a way to, come to some mutual agreement so that they can terminate the contract and ship them on out of here.
Yeah, look, I think, look, you've got to be, we're in a particular situation here, and I think you've got to be careful about terminating players' contracts, because I don't think that's, that's not a cool thing to do, because then it opens the door. What if a player gets injured? Is it all right then to just, cut that payment off to their livelihood? So I don't really like just terminating contracts unless someone's got somewhere to go to. I don't, even though no matter how bad a player is, I don't think that's a good precedent to be setting. But that is fantastic news that Doherty's going, man.
Also, this is harsh on Doherty.
Just quickly, guys, fuck them. I couldn't care if we cancel the contracts. They come in here, they're not good enough, tough shit. If I walked into a factory tomorrow and I couldn't do the job they're asked me to do, you think they're going to say, okay, Dave, stay at home, but we're going to continue to pay you? No. It's the real world we live in. It's ruthless. You're gone. You're sacked. The next guy comes in your place. It's the same in football. They get paid more than enough and more than the average human being to be able to make their money last and go by without being skinned. I could not give a fuck whether it's affecting their performances affect my health. How about that? So the point is, I couldn't care less. Get them gone at all costs. They came in, wore a jersey that has been worn by some greats, and they've shit all over it. So I couldn't care less about their lifestyle or anything else. I couldn't care less. That's for up to them to sort out. Do you think they come off the pitch and go, oh, let me ring Dave to see how his health is after my shit performance today? Of course not. Of course not. Yeah. I've had to watch it for so long. I'm fed up. Well, the only way we're going to get out of this mess is by being ruthless, but also terminating Doherty's contract shows how far we've got the right back situation / right wing back situation so bad since Kyle Walker. Two of the players we've had to replace him since we terminated the contracts, Doherty and Aurier. So it just goes to show what a mess the recruitment is and what a mess this club is, that you have to start cancelling contracts to get these players out. But at the end of the day, I hear what you're saying, Paul, and you're coming from probably a more realistic and human perspective than me. But at the end of the day, if they're not performing, get them fuck up. Yeah.
That's Dave's policy.
I think with this news that's just come out, I think it might be a domino effect. I think with the players that we've talked about that we need gone, I think this might happen with a few of these players.
I hope to see more of this in the summer. That's just how I sort of see it. I hope this is the right step. The step in the right direction.
There might be go on.
Sorry, maybe this will put a rocket up their arse, if they see, Doherty's been cut loose, then the others, I can't see them upping their performance by any means, but at least they're on fucking notice now. It's a tough one. I agree with you, Dave. I just, I find it hard when, cutting, I don't know, just terminating players. I don't know. But you're right. It does, you watch a match, and you come away from it, and there's some, because it's early in the morning in Australia here, so sometimes I've been working all night. I might have had a shit night at work. I'll put on a nice football game. Tottenham disappoint the fuck out of me, and I just curl up in the ball the rest of the fucking day. So maybe you've got a point there, Dave. Fuck them.
I just can't take it anymore. I've had my fill of 4 years of it. Honestly, it's like, it's getting to the point where I'd rather us four roll out across that back line. And I know myself isn't in shape, but I'd do a better fucking job. And at least I try to do the right things. And it's just like, look, 3 or 4 years of it is too long to go on for anybody. It's just too much. And at the end of the day, I have if it was Harry Kane or Son, I would say, how dare the club treat them like that? But look at the service they've given. They don't deserve to be treated like that. But someone that's come in and just has been consistently shit, I'm sorry, I have no sentiment for them anymore. I just don't. It's gone on for far too long. And look, you can probably blame the club for it, but I don't care. You know, I'm not sitting here. I'm not going to sit here and watch Tottenham idly go by a couple of pieces every window until we slowly do it and another 5 windows go by. And then I'm supposed to be grateful for it. You know, I can't do it any longer. At the end of the day, you want to get this mess sorted out, you've got to do it now. And you've got to do it the way that we've done it with Doherty this evening. It's the only way. If you can't get the fees for them, you can't get a loan with their wages covered or whatever else. Fuck them. I don't care. Get the contracts terminated.
We're still seeing the effects of those 3 windows where we didn't buy any players, because I think Tottenham are under the illusion that, okay, if we haven't spent on 3 windows, that means we've saved money. But football's not like that. Those players are still there. The ones that you would have replaced, you still have to fucking replace them. So all that money that you've saved back then, you're still going to have to spend that amount now to upgrade the squad. And guess what? Players are more expensive now. So you've shot yourself in the arse. You know, you've thought of, like you say, Jack, you've kicked the can down the road, but then you still
only
have
to do this. Only to have to do this.
In those 3 windows, say if we should have spent, say, 50 million in each window, 150 million overall. Well, you've got to spend 150 million extra now to just repair that damage. It doesn't just disappear.
It just sort of feels like, you know, with Spurs, I just hope, for me at least, even if they have to come to terms with the fact that they have, you know, maybe made this problem where it's so big that they have to just use this as a solution, so be it. You've put yourself in this situation. This is the situation you find yourself in, and you have to work your way out of it as quickly as possible. And there's no kind of kicking this problem down the road. You know, they have to, you know, solve it now. And I think Matt Doherty's contract being terminated is actually a good reflection of maybe hopefully what's to come, maybe in the summer, actually, at least. But I don't know, Dave. I think there's also a certain player we could talk about that we have a good question on next, you know, maybe Davinson Sanchez. But what do you think? You know, any other comments maybe here with this decision from Spurs here?
Yeah, look, I know some people are going to look at it and say, Dave, you're harsh. But at the end of the day, I'm not having the progression of the football club that I've supported long before these players, and I will long after these players, being halted just because, you know, people want to care for Doherty and make sure he's all paid up and all this sort of crap. At the end of the day, we paid his transfer fee. We paid his wages to come in and do a job. There's his incentives. He didn't do it. Plus, he's an Arsenal fan. Good riddance.
Oh, fucking
Secret Gooner. No, secret Gooner.
I mean, we've got to get used to this. We can't have this football club held back any longer because we want to make sure these players are okay, even though they've shit on the club and they were bought in the first place to take this club forward and failed to do it. I'm not having it any longer.
Brandon Troller saying, send him more love, fellas. Would you rather Longley as the center back and Davies as the left-sided center back, or Longley and Davies as the left-sided center back, and persist with Dyer's announce or just Dyer's mistakes? Truly baffling. It's a tough one. I personally am kind of more in favor of maybe Longley through the middle for the rest of the season. See if we can get maybe some steady Eddie performances from Davies and sort of have to live with his sort of boring side-to-side kind of passing. But Davies just doesn't make the mistakes I think Dyer does, even though I don't think Davies is of any sort of spectacular level either. I just don't think he makes the baffling mistakes, like you say there, that Moonhead does. So I'm kind of with that. I would probably go with Longley through the middle, Davies on the left, and play Romero on the right. But I don't know. Anybody else have a preferred center back combination? But this is the point, is that these are headaches. These are unnecessary headaches to be in.
Yeah, I was just about to say that, Jack. I'd rather not have these headaches in the first place. You know what I mean? It's like I have to sit here and decide whether I want a centre midfielder converted to a centre back or a left back converted to a left side centre back to form my back three. These are headaches you should just not have to have at a club like Tottenham Hotspur. And look, at the end of the day, we can go, yeah, Dyer shit, can't header a ball, you know, not inconsistent at passing the ball. But the reality is, Davies is just the shittest progressing play out from the back anyway. So it doesn't matter who you play. They limit us. And this is the problem. I can't wait for the day where I see people putting names like Gavardi or who do you want, Gavardi or Labas in there today, Dave. I don't want to be talking about these players anymore. I've been doing it for 8 and 7 years in both respective cases, and I'm fed up with it. Why do we have to keep talking about them? They're crap. They should have been rotated in the summer. They had another opportunity this January, still haven't done it, and now we're going to be sitting here in the summer talking about it again. And guess what? One of them will go on and have an okay end of the season, and all will be forgiven again. And then we'll go into next season. They'll still be here. They'll start costing us, and everyone will be talking about centre backs again. We'll go into January, and we still won't do it. I'm fed up with it. Brandon, I'm going to answer your question for the sake of answering, but I think you'll agree with me. We shouldn't have to have these headaches. Look, I don't like Davies. I don't like Dyer. You want my true opinion, honest opinion? I'd rather switch to a back four, but that's not going to happen under Conte. So, look, it's going to be Romero, Dyer, and Langley because, look, Davies is just shit on the football. Ideally, I don't want any of them.
I'm the same. I think Romero, Dyer, and Longley for me. Longley on that left side looks more balanced. He's a ball playing defender, and I think he's an upgrade on Davis. And Dyer, he's not the best option, is he, in the world? But I think we need height in that area as well. So that's the only reason why I'd pick Dyer at the centre, really, for me.
Do you have a preferred headache for the rest of the season, Paul?
A bit like Dave, I'm not really interested, man. Like our centre backs, it's like that magic trick. You've got 3 cups. Which one's the ball under, and you shuffle them around, and then you lift them up, and there's just dog shit under each cup in Tottenham. So I really don't care, man. Like if we sign, like Dave said, if we fucking sign Vardiol, holy shit, man, then I'd be happy as I wouldn't care. I wouldn't care about any other signings. If we sign that one player, someone like that, that'd be a superb window. But no, we're just going to be shuffling dog shit around. Longley, Davies, Dyer, Captain Sanchez. Fuck me.
Oh, what a magic trick that we're being that's being pulled.
This is it, though. I mean,
even more embarrassing actually is the outpour of love from Matt Doherty. For what? 6 good games. Jesus, give me a break.
Yeah, a year ago.
And also as well, I mean, he was around during the Aurier days and he couldn't even get a spot ahead of Aurier, which is, I mean, just says to his levels. James Coffey seems to be following you over from Weird Time TV, Dave. He says, Dave is on fire. So funny. Dave, you're being released. You're back with a vengeance.
Yeah, look, I don't know. Maybe I've just had the right coffee today. I don't know, but I appreciate it, James. Appreciate it, my man. Look, I just fed up with the shit that's going on at Tottenham. I've got to the point where I don't want to sit here and plot and plan schemes and ways. Oh, we've done this. Maybe we can do this next week. I'm fed up with it. I just want it sorted out now. I shouldn't have to sit here after every transfer window. What if we do this? Or what if we convert this player to this position? And all this making, square pegs trying to fit in round holes. It's just bullshit. I'm fed up with it. And then, something that I should have been keeping a better eye on, but something that came to light about the amount of players we got on loan. And if you think that's not going to affect the way we do our summer business, it is. It is, because we're going to have to offload them, find moves for them first before we even think about bringing anybody in here. And it just makes it even more concerning. I've just got to the point. I've had enough. Just had enough, James. Yeah. Big up, man. I've had a lot of coffee today.
Good man. Good man, James. Dan Coy is saying Porro must get the number 2 jersey now. Come on, you Spurs. I think was originally the number 24 over at Sporting. So he either takes Jed Spence's kit or was Doherty number 2?
Yeah.
So I think he's taking number 2, I would imagine, perhaps with Doherty leaving, unless he takes Jet Spence's, which would be a little awkward, I guess, if he were to shut that out of the way. But I don't know. I see him taking the number 2 kit by the looks of things. Do you have any preferences on the kits there, Paul? Do you excited about a Pedro Porro number 2, or you think it'll look better in the 24?
Oh, I'm old school. I like numbers between 1 and 11, so I can, tell where players are. So, I think that was Steve Perriman's old number. So he's got a tough act to follow there. But I like seeing low numbers. Easy for my brain.
Easy. Yeah, I think that's how Sean Dyche likes it as well. I think 1 through 11, keep just keep it simple when it comes to the numbers, and that'd be the position he plays, number 2 anyway. So there you go. Brandon Troller, let's toss Lloris at center back and Dyer and goalkeeper for a laugh. It feels like a lot of people have started to come up with the experiment of maybe playing Emerson as a right-sided center back to sort of kind of relieve the problem. I don't know. What do we think about that, lads? Because I do kind of stand up for Emerson, but I just don't really see that as a plausible sort of a scenario.
Well,
Maybe it is, but I don't know. Someone explain it to me.
Well, where he's playing at the minute, right wing back does not suit him one bit. He's either a fullback or I can see him maybe having a go at right centre back because he is good at headering the ball. He's at the end of the day, all he needs to do is give simple passes into the midfield or on into the right back or centre back. So he doesn't have to do much apart from defend, which he can do. So he might be all right in that position.
All righty. Well,
Don't even ask me.
Yeah, I was going to say, Paul, do you have any hope at Emerson, transforming into a center back, or is this kind of, again, just the same problem, we find ourselves in?
No, I mean, look, if he was a decent centre back, he would have been playing at centre back, I think, already. It's just, how long? Like, no is the answer. No.
Maybe Moonhead actually would have a honestly though, Lloris may be more of a defense, more no nonsense center back, and then Dyer might have a better touch as a goalkeeper. Perhaps they could switch positions.
I hear you if it's like, look, Emerson's probably one of our best headers of the ball in terms of defensive.
That's where I was going with it.
But the reality is he doesn't relieve a problem. You still press him. He's still going to panic. He's still not good enough on the football. But again, this is another part of the problem. We're talking about bringing another player from his natural position into a position that he's not natural in. And it's kind of like, why are we doing this at Tottenham? Just if they're not good enough in their natural positions, they're not going to be good enough anywhere else. But this is why I get so pissed off. I remember after North London Derby, Paddy Power put out a post, or was it after the City game? Paddy Power put out a post of a picture from when Harry Kane was in goals before for Tottenham. And it was just, the caption was, hear me out. And why I'm so pissed off is because I was ready to hear them out on it. That's how bad things have got.
And Brian Dempsey saying, all right, David Jack, what's up, rest of the panel? Imagine Porro was to pull out now. Please don't, Brian. Dave, fancy hitting Temple Bar. We could drown our sorrows. LOL. Dave, fancy, maybe meeting up with Brian here just to take your mind off of Spurs, go on a nice little kind of, bar crawl.
Well, I mean, Temple Bar's a good spot. So, Brian Dempsey, you've got me sold there. There's a lot of, it's where the height of the activity is in and around Dublin, Jack, in and around the capital. Okay. Very good spot, Temple Bar. Look, Porro deal for me, it's done. It's going to happen. We're probably waiting. We're probably putting together this big video, and it better be worth it, to be honest with you. Actually, better be worth it, the fact that we're waiting this. But from what I understand, there's no chance of it being pulled out. It's still done. Tottenham are just delaying to wait to announce it.
Yeah. And even maybe with Matt Doherty leaving sort of kind of confirms it further. I don't think they would get rid of Matt Doherty and, terminate the contract and get rid of Jed Spence. Maybe they love Emerson that much. That's all they want is just Emerson. And that's all we get. And no Pedro Porro is left. But everybody, I do see it happening. Like Dave said, I think they're just, editing the videos, putting up the TikToks, all the Instagram stuff. They're just maybe working a little slowly on it, putting a lot of final touches to it by the looks of things. But Brian, sounds like a good time, especially if that scenario were to happen. But believe me, my man, I think this time it's happening. This time it's happening.
If you're up in Dublin, my man, give me a shout. I'll try and get up to you though, brother. Big up.
I think we have to figure out this center back situation here, lads, because, it's kind of the main.
Just quickly, Jack, I believe Sport have announced the signing of Hector Bellerin, which more or less means the Porro deal will go through.
A lot of moving parts that are kind of coming together here. What maybe, the main gripe of this window here, everybody, is the fact that we didn't bring in any center back of any kind. Spurs last season, you would say, maybe could have gotten rid of Sanchez, but this season, I feel like they definitely could have gotten rid of Sanchez, but apparently he was reluctant to leave this January. And also considering Tanganga is kind of a crucial kind of homegrown spot, it's a little bit trickier to get rid of him. So did we kind of maybe hinder our chances of bringing in a center back, considering that maybe Davinson Sanchez was so reluctant to leave? I don't know, Dave. I'll start with you again here, though, first.
If you're going by the model that Tottenham like to operate by, where they don't like to carry people that they can't register in their European squads, they don't want to carry any extra on the wage bill that they don't necessarily have to carry, I would say you would probably argue, yes, that's probably the case, Jack. But again, You know, if you want players gone and they're not in a rush to leave, well, how do you make them leave? You bring in the guys, you clog up their pathway to the first team, even the pathway to play in these cup games, and then you guarantee, you tell them, okay, you think you're going out there with Harry Kane and Son Trent? No. Sorry, you're going out with Mundial and that new guy we bought from Chelsea. That's where you're playing. You go and train with them. Like, that's what we should be doing, because I can guarantee you then they will instruct their agent to find them a new club. So if they're not in a rush to leave, make them leave. They had no problem sending Danny Rose down to the under-23s when he batted out the club and they didn't like it. So why not treat these guys the same when they're putting in shit performances? You know,
and that's no problem with moving on Matt Doherty in order to get what they needed to get done, and we all knew they needed a center back, so it felt like they could have done something similar with Sanchez.
Do what they do to all the youngsters in this at Tottenham Hotspur. They clog up the youngsters for these guys to come in and get games in cup games and stuff like that. So clog up their pathway to the first team. Guarantee you they'll leave. It wouldn't even be an issue.
Do you feel like Davinson Sanchez's reluctance to leave, Phil, Phil, is kind of an explanation for Spurs's, lack of a center back this window, or is it maybe, too good of, or is it, not good enough of an excuse, do you think?
I'm with Dave on this. I think, just bring the centre back in that we need, and then just, keep Davinson Sanchez out of the team, put him in the under-21s. So he has to leave. He ain't got no choice. So I'm fully with Dave on that. I think we should just get the players in that we need, and then whatever we don't need, don't play them. They'll soon get pissed off with it.
But does that not show maybe weak leadership in all areas? Enoch, Daniel Levy, even Paratici, I'm throwing in on this. Does this not show weak leadership then, Phil? The fact that they're, instead of them operating what's best for the club, they're allowing the players to dictate what's best for them. So does that not show weak leadership then?
100%, and this is why some of the fan base don't want these owners in, because they haven't got a fucking clue what they're doing. Do you know what I mean? So,
how about a big six club like Tottenham though? Can you allow players to dictate what's going on, dictate your transfer window because they're not in a rush to leave, rather than you dictating it? How have we got into this mess?
Well, it shouldn't be the owners dictating the players anyway. It should be the manager. The manager should be dictating the players. The owner should be doing the business side of it. Let the manager sort it out. With Alex Ferguson back in the day, he's a prime example. Do you think if he was in this squad now, Alex Ferguson, do you think he would have the players that we've got? Would he? Hell, no chance. Because the owners expected him to sort the players out, sort the team morale out. So
it's up to the manager to bring that list, I think, to the owner, and then it's up to the owner to then deal with the business side of it afterwards, Phil, right? It's up to the owner to then figure out the best way to get rid of them.
But let's not also pretend that we've had Jose Mourinho and Conte here and that they haven't gone with some of the names that are still left here.
Oh, they definitely have. But then I think it's the manner in which the owner decides how to get rid of them. And our owner maybe is just reluctant to do whatever means necessary in order to get rid of the players that, they've been asked to, to ship on. That's what it looks like. I think another thing too for it is, maybe a question I'd ask you, Paul, is Davinson Sanchez very reluctant to leave, maybe perhaps, kind of stalled our move of a center back. Dyer and Davies approaching testimonials, I think, very soon as well. Is there a problem at Spurs where a lot of players here just get way too comfortable?
I just don't. I don't see how it happens. I mean, maybe if it was a decent player, I'd have some sympathy about them not wanting to move. But he's shit. He's just not good enough. How can he hold a gun to Tottenham's head and say, "Oh, I don't want to move," when you're not good enough, mate? I can understand him saying that, but what I don't understand is the club not getting in a replacement, fucking him off to the under-23s, and then he'll go. Mm-hmm. He won't want to stay then. How do you ever improve a squad if your shit players refuse to go and you go, oh, okay, then we can't buy any new good players because we've got Davinson Sanchez wants to stay, and in fact we'll give him the captain's armband, and that made him that upped his performance. He only fell over the ball twice, so fair play to him, but fuck, no, it's arse about face. You can't run a football club like that. It should be a meritocracy,
I completely agree.
I'll just add to that. I think it's to do with like the valuation of the player. You know, if you had a player that wasn't playing, it's going to bring their value down. So, you know, that's what I think it is anyway. I think it's to do with the valuation of the player.
Do you think,
But then,
Dave? Yeah, Paul. Sorry.
Alternatively, the way they're doing it is they're showing Davison Sanchez in the shop window to up his value, so everyone can see his shit.
Maybe so, and it feels like they can't play him too much though, because then everybody will really figure out, he's shit. They can only play him once in a while, and he might have a good game, and perhaps he could convince some, poor soul. But Dave, do you feel like Sanchez reluctant to leave and allowed to get away with that? Davies and Dyer approaching testimonials. Is it just that a few too many players on this team perhaps are just way too comfortable?
Jack, we know they're comfortable, and the problem is that it's affecting everything we do. You're talking about players that have been here a long time at this football club. They have a hold of the dressing room. They've got a hold of, the owner's ears. This, that, and the other. And we know this. Davies went and spoke to Levy on the behalf of the players under Nuno and got Nuno sacked. The players came out moaning about Jose Mourinho's tactics, how mean he was to them in the press conferences. He wasn't protecting them, even though they let in 3 goals that evening. And this is the problem. And is there any wonder why we've been hiring and firing managers and going through them quicker than what I go through 3 strings? Of course there's not, Jack, because these players, they come in, new manager bounce, okay, fed up with him. The fans were talking about getting rid of us. Okay, Graham, watch this. Poor performances, manager sacked, rinse and repeat, bring in Nuno, same thing. Now the same thing with Conte, and it's absolutely mind-boggling. We've got to get rid of the culture that they have in the dressing room, the hold that they have in the dressing room, because they could easily just turn around and go, lads, I'm not feeling Conte. He was a bit mean to you today in training. I didn't like that, and slowly, gradually getting people on their side. And this cannot happen any longer. You've got to get them gone at all costs. They're not good enough. And even some people would say, well, look, Dave, they do a job. But it's doing a job at Tottenham Hotspur when we need players to come in and do it week in, week out good enough. It's not. And the point is then we've also seen their behavior when they've been back up. They're not happy. They moan. They cry to the press. I want minutes. But when they're given minutes, they're not taken. This charade just has to stop. Just get them gone at all costs and rebuild that back line. It's holding us back. We haven't been able to get anywhere near any cup finals since Pochettino back one under Jose Mourinho because the back line is shite. But guess what? When we have gone out, we got into a semi-final under Conte, we came up against a Chelsea team. Our back line was crap then. We can't get into any finals. We're never going to lift any trophies until it's rectified because they're not good enough. So if we want to progress as a football club, we want to win trophies. We want what Liverpool and Man City has. That comes with redoing the back line, which also means then we'll be able to keep a manager here longer than 15, 16 months. And if you look at Jose Mourinho, right, what was he? 18 months, sacked. Nuno, less than a year, sacked. Conte, just over a year. And now fans are calling for him to be sacked. We don't know whether he's going to say. This can't keep happening because that's why you got a squad mixed of 4 or 5 different regimes and not always necessarily the best. So in order to sort this mess out, get rid of the back line, let's start getting some consistent results, which means then, everyone's happy with a manager, which means we can keep a manager for 4 or 5 years, build, and go and fucking win trophies. It's not hard. Look at what Arsenal have done under Arteta. Look at what Liverpool have done under Jurgen Klopp. They could have sacked them after the Champions League final and said, well, it was your choice. You sanctioned bringing in that numpty of a goalkeeper, but they didn't. They said, okay, we got it wrong. We'll go in and bring in Alisson. And guess what? They brought in Virgil van Dijk as well at centre-back. They went on and won a league. You're going into a summer transfer window. You need a goalkeeper and centre-backs. If we can get them 2 done, who knows where it can take us? And that's why it's of utmost importance to get it done now. Just quickly, yeah. We had 18 months to convince Conte to stay here longer than the 18-month contract that we handed him. Have we come out of this window and convinced him to sign on to keep him here longer? We haven't done enough over the 18 months to be able to keep him, in my opinion.
Do you think with these financial reports that are going to come out, at the start of February, because I know I think it's going to be stupid amounts of profit that they've made in that financial year. Do you think that's going to back Levy into a corner to get these major signings that we need in the summer next year?
It feels like then that's poor timing, though, Phil. Wouldn't I ask you, like, wouldn't it be better for him to sort of bring in some, let's say he brings in one big signing this January window on top of the Pedro Porro one, and then the accounts get released? Some people would be like, oh, okay, that would be better timing than, not spending very much as he has, and then, waiting for him to spend big in the summer. I feel like the timing of that isn't as good.
Yeah.
Just maybe. How I see it. But I don't know, maybe that is what's sort of in his head. What do you think, Paul? Do you think that's what Levy is thinking, is perhaps to wait until the accounts get released and then he's just going to promise everybody to spend big in the summer, which is kind of, a promise has been made in the past?
I wouldn't be surprised if the reports come out and there's a big profit and they take a nice big dividend and they just hang us out to dry, basically. They might well come out with, nice little mission statements about summer. This will allow us to progress to the next level and all this sort of shit. And I don't know, man. I just can't see anything changing. I really can't.
I just think if there is big profit that they've made, which I think they might, I just think I don't think he's got a choice but to spend the money next summer. With this, with the amount of money that they've brought in.
With the amount of money that they've brought in, and also as well with the increased pressure from how other clubs are spending, you hope that he realizes that the act has to change. But this is a conversation it feels like we continue to have, let's be honest. But Dave, Ellie here, she's thrown in a super sticker, and it's her just punching away. It's actually you punching away at that punching bag that I think you maybe have needed today. You need a Spurs punching bag.
I do, Jack. I need to go and, get them to open up the local gym and start, grab a dummy and start throwing them down on the mats and doing some of my UFC moves, because I'm angry today, Jack. I'm angry. It's just like, look, don't get me wrong. Like I said earlier on, I think we are stronger coming out of the window, but we haven't exactly addressed emergency issues. Like me, when I look at it, I think we would have got by if we brought in a decent centre back or two. We would have got by with the right wing back for the rest of the season. And I know it's not saying much, and people would say, well, Dave, we should do both, which are correct, especially since many are predicting these financials are going to come out and show whopper profits. But spending it in the summer is too late, Bill. It's too late. It's, it should have been used while Antonio Conte was here. It's too late to do it in the summer. And I get what you're saying. It means, fans will demand that they spend it in the summer, and hopefully they do. But by then it's already too late. You're into a new project, new manager, and it's like you can't keep going down this road. And then you've got a squad that resembles 5 different regimes, and it just keeps going. And if they've got all that money, well, then start by cancelling more contracts.
Yeah, you hope so. Big up, Ellie. Do appreciate your support. And I think Dave needs that punching bag. It looks like, Ellie, we're going to have to get that in order. Big yourself up. And then Faz Radfar as well here has said the priority will have to be center backs and a number one goalkeeper. I am very much behind the number one goalkeeper. I've been a bit harsh to Hugo, let's say, this season. But I think, at least in my case, rightfully harsh, because I've been very let down, I think, in his particular case, because it felt like he's our captain. He's the guy that we look upon in these big matches, and he's let us down a lot of different times fast. So I do think the number one goalkeeper is a must. And let's be honest, probably 2 to 3 center backs is they're going to have to be looking at too, really, in this summer as well. It's just a huge back line and just defensive kind of revamp that's been needed, and it's been pushed down the road, been kicked down the road way too many times. They needed to upgrade the back line, and they probably needed to find a goalkeeping replacement for Hugo a while ago. Even Hugo, we think, even offered his services to find, his replacement, and they haven't really gone about that. Now it's almost kind of a bit too late. Like, kind of Hugo needs to go, and I'm not even sure if he's going to help us out with finding his replacement. It's just been kind of, delayed far too long, Faz.
This is the thing, though, Jack. If we would have done what we were told was going to happen when Hugo re-signed that contract, that he was going to identify his long-term replacement for the next 10 years, and that he wanted to work with him before this next contract ended, we wouldn't be sitting here in a position sitting in 5th, 6th, 7th today, would we? Because the guys cost us 9 to 12 points already this season. Now, if we had that, we'd be in the title race. So if we would have done what we were supposed to do when he signed that contract, we wouldn't be sitting here unhappy today. We would be sitting here in a fucking title race today.
Yeah. You're right. You're right. And also Sebas Dave, I think, can get you a punching bag. So he says, I know Sebas goes to to the gym daily, so he can help you out, Dave. Big up, my man. And do appreciate the support, Faz, my man. We do have a few more questions lined up, I think, and then we'll as well kind of, get to some sort of conclusionary, let's say, thoughts on this window. Still waiting for, I guess, that picture to be released from the likes of Pedro Porro. Still waiting for it. But with actually, this one is kind of the one I've been waiting for. So I might go to one of you and then I kind of might answer it myself here. But with Bournemouth securing the signature of that Zabarnyi guy from Ukraine and Chelsea signing Badiashile from Monaco, as well as Forest all of a sudden signing a player from Atletico, that guy Felipe, are you a little frustrated that Spurs didn't go for any kind of center back that was available? I'll start with you, Phil. Isn't that kind of a little bit frustrating that other teams kind of went after the center backs that were available when we knew we needed one just like them, and they seem to find a way to get it done?
Yeah, I'm surprised at the Zabiani deal. I thought we could have got him. It was in our price range, around 23 million. Yeah, we've missed the boat there on him. Yeah, I just think that it's a priority for next summer. That's what I can gather from it, really. I think that Conte is happy with what he's got at the minute, and it will see him through this season and get him to top 4 and get an FA Cup maybe. But time will tell, I suppose. But yeah, we should be getting a centre back in this window, but we'll have to see next window.
This is where I've been left most frustrated, because I've kind of been saying from the very, very beginning that if Spurs are in such a position where basically any center back sort of kind of walks into the team, like any center back that we get is going to be an improvement, it sort of then leaves you with, I think, very few excuses for, leaving it till later or anything like that. Because if it's that much of a problem right now, I don't think there really is a point of waiting, much, until the summer. I think you should try to find some type of center back that can at least alleviate the problem somewhat. He's not going to fix the problem completely outright. You will have to wait to the summer, I think, to fix it outright. But they could have gone after something to at least challenge the likes of Eric Dyer, to move on someone like Sanchez, who we know is no longer useful or, of interest to us anymore. It really was, I think, something that was very doable for Spurs. I think Zabarnyi was very doable for us. I know Conte likes the very experienced sort of players. We could have maybe done that Felipe kind of center back that Forest went after. Badiashile was another player that we'd been looking at that Spurs had really liked too, because he's young and up and coming and everything like that. Turns out he was available this January. There did seem to be plenty of center backs available. Harry Sutar, just went, from Sunderland as well. There were center backs that were available, it felt like, this January. Of course, the Gavardiols, maybe the Bastonis, and players like that might not have been available, but there still were decent, kids, I think, and people that we could have gone after. So that's where I'm kind of left most disappointed, at least, where Spurs knew that this was their biggest problem this window. They knew that they were going to probably go after the bigger names in the summer, but I don't think it's an excuse to, push it, completely down the road. They could have tried to fix the problem at least a little bit by going after some type of Zabarnyi, going after some type of center back of some kind, because clearly other teams who had issues with the defense were able to do it. So I don't know why we've somehow decided to kick the can down the road. It's really been the theme of tonight. But I don't know, Dave or Paul, anybody kind of agree with me here? Because I think anybody kind of walks into this back line, and with that premise that anybody walks into that back line, surely they could have gotten somebody in this January just to sort of kind of help out the situation. It's not going to fix the situation, but at least help it out a little bit. Don't leave us with the same center back situation we had before.
Well, I don't think we're looking at it from a football sense, are we? I think the biggest qualification for a centre back at Tottenham is, how nice a cup of tea can they make for Daniel Levy? Maybe bit of sunscreen on your head there, sir. No worries. They're just arse lickers, and I just think that they're toxic. And you're right. Any bloody look. You could look at any other team in the Premier League. Any centre back from any of them would be an upgrade on what we've got.
Yeah.
We've got the worst centre backs in the country.
Yeah. And like you said, more than 30 goals conceded. Like I even brought up that Australian Harry Suter could have walked into this team. I could have thought like he would have been an improvement on Dyer.
He had a good World Cup. I quite fancied the look of him. So yeah, he
was achievable. This is what I mean, Paul. These achievable kind of center back deals, like in January,
he would definitely be an upgrade. Definitely be an upgrade. But then, you want to go for real quality. I think, which is why when I was watching Vardiol playing for Croatia, that's where I was thinking, man, if that guy had a Spurs shirt on. That 30 goals we've let in already this season would have been like 10, 15, I reckon, and we would be top 3, top 2. Who knows?
No, he would transform this season more than I think any other type of signing. Dave, I did kind of annoy you, right, in the beginning of this season where I just said, like, listen, we might find ourselves in the last day of this transfer window where basically you would have looked at it saying, I would have taken anything, would have taken any new center back in this team. And, we probably wanted to always hold out, like I said, for the higher quality, the much more proven, the, more top of the line center backs. But I did kind of, offer you a question a long time ago, like, if you find yourself on the last day of January, would you have wished that Spurs just gone after basically anything that would, be an improvement? That the guys that did turn out to be very achievable, like Zabarny, like Felipe, like Badiashile, these kind of guys, are you a little disappointed that Spurs didn't go after any of these center backs that, were potentially available this January?
Yeah, I'm already pissed off, Jack. If you look at it, right, how are teams scoring against us? Running at us, taking players on. Balls over the top, we can't deal with. Balls into the box early, we can't deal with. So we're conceding goals left, right, and centre, whether it's, through every type of play. So it's a huge problem. And it's got to the point where, look, I still maintain you need an absolute leader in the middle of that back three. Someone that understands the game, that can read the game, that can say, Romero, you're thinking about pushing up, just drop in a little just in case, and doing the same the other side, helping coach players through games. We badly need that. Now, people already, told me before, Eric Dyer's your guy. He speaks 15 different languages. He doesn't speak the most important one. He doesn't speak football. That's the most important one. And we would now, hopefully we can come out of this and we understand what a true leader is rather than a bilingual person being a leader. So that's one thing that's clarified. But at the end of the day, Jack, I'm kind of the opinion now that, yeah, we could have started by bringing in our younger targets, ones that maybe when you do bring in the big dogs, they're the ones that are sitting in like a Sanchez position or a Tanganga position, learning their trade, looking to get in and take any opportunity. But the reality is, Jack, anybody's better than what we've got. Anybody. Maguire on loan. Lewis Dunk even at Brighton, go on a Target Palace, go for Guehi or Anderson or somebody like that. Go and try and get a Tarkowski out of Everton or a Connor Cody. They're in massive trouble, But the reality is anything is better than what we've got. So looking back on it, I was hoping that we were going to get the real deal in here, which I still believe we need. We're still going to have to bring the real deal in, even if you do bring in some of them younger targets that you're talking about, Jack. But to answer your question, anything's better.
Yeah,
Dave, it's not just bad defending though. It's like every defender gets skinned once in a while. That's just the way it is. But it's the way that they've made absolute criminal mistakes under no pressure at all. Yeah, gifting the ball away. Eric Dyer heading it to a centre forward. Hugo Lloris thinking he can play a bit of tick-a-tacker, fucking it up. It's those things where I see them happening in games. That time and time again, like I said, I don't mind defenders being beaten once in a while, but when they just give a goal away for no reason at all, you should be shown the door. Shown the door straight away, man.
Yeah.
Jerome here asking, controversial question for you guys. Do you think that Mourinho and Conte did not have this much pressure as Poch and hence not really bothered about much of a clean out? So basically, Pochettino was put under more pressure to succeed. And so he basically asked for that clear out. He needed that clear out. he was basically given it. But then they probably saw that as very expensive, very tough to do, things that they were very uncomfortable with. And so they seem kind of reluctant or unwilling to do it for Conte or Mourinho. How would you look at it, Dave?
Oh, yeah.
Go on, Philip. Go on. No, go on,
Yeah,
Philip.
I was just going to say, I think Poch had a good relationship with Levy, more so than Conte and Mourinho.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Phil. Didn't they used to go to the Swiss Alps together? Wasn't there a home out there they used to join? No, it's true. I'm not even.
Yeah, I know. I know. That's what I think. I think there is a relationship breakdown between Conte and Mourinho at the time with Levy. And I think Poch got rid of 17 players, didn't he? At his time.
Yeah.
So something around that. So why can't Conte do that while he's at the club?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what.
He seems to be trying. I mean, I know, but our new way of clearing out is just to put players on loan. That's the problem we're having. So Conte, like when he took the pre-season training, he left a number of players back in England. He didn't take them on tour, so it was obvious they weren't in his plans. But instead of them being sold, we just put them out on loan on the never.
But the players that Pochettino had to sell, you're talking like Adebayor, okay, shit at Tottenham. But he had a history of scoring goals beforehand. So, you're talking players of that caliber that, clubs will always come in and take a punt on. But some of the guys we've signed, people are never going to come in and sign them because they don't have that sort of history that, an Adebayor had, or that skin in the game that an Adebayor had. Like when Poch came in, we can't forget that he was nearly sacked until Harry Kane scored that deflected free kick against Aston Villa. It saved his career. But why would they put Pochettino under pressure when he's accepting 3 transfer windows without a signing to build the stadium? Of course he's not.
This is where I don't blame Levy and Enoch, is because the money that they've given for players, it's the recruitment side of it where I have the gripe is,
on that though, Phil, they sacked Paul Mitchell, who was doing a good job in recruitment. Or no, sorry, they didn't sack him. He left because he's starting to get to a point where he was bringing players to the table, and they were bringing in Clinton NG and fucking Nkudu, and he was looking at it, he goes, I'm not having them attached to my name, I'm out of here. So then it's their fault that they ended up with Steve Fraud Hitchin in the first place.
Yeah, there is that side of it as well, but you can't get away from the fact that the recruitment side has been so poor at this club in the last how many years. The
recruitment side is why we find ourselves with 11 players on loan.
And that is down to Levy because, as well, because they've obviously brought this recruitment team in. Do you know what I mean? So it's down to them and the recruitment side of it.
Like that, but that's why that's probably the answer to Jerome's question, though, Philip, is the fact that they spent what 350 million under Steve Hitchin. They pissed that away, but like they're probably spending more money on Antonio Conte and maybe a bit more on Jose Mourinho than what they had to spend on Poch, and that's probably why they're under pressure. But the difference is, Poch was always a project manager and a manager to get them through the rebuild. They've seen the job he done at Southampton, the football he had them playing. They were like, well, he done that with mainly players that he brought in from the academy. He's produced a lot of players from the England team by doing that. He's our guy to be able to run it cheaply so we can get through the stadium and the training complex rebuild. Okay, fair enough. I can accept that because we need the stadium, we need the training complex and stuff like that. I understand it. But when you're talking about backing Jose Mourinho in terms of what he's used to getting backed with to go and win trophies, we only gave a proportion of that up. You're doing the same with Conte. And it's kind of like, if you're going to bring in these managers, you need to give them more than what they're giving you. But they're sitting there and going, well, we spent this. No, good luck, not good enough. But it's like, you can't tell me Jose Mourinho wanted a centre-back and asked for Joe Rodon. I mean, reports came out the other day, he wanted Kim Min-jae, we didn't get him. We didn't listen to him. Ironically, we spent more on Joe Rodon than what we would have got Kim Min-jae for. And this is the problem. They're not backing, they're bringing in managers that have the ability to win you trophies, but we're asking them to work with players that we already know the answer that they're not good enough. And then when we do back them, it's so, in Jose Mourinho's case, it was half-hearted. But under Antonio Conte's case, it's a bit different. The problem is that past problems are now coming to haunt us underneath Antonio Conte. And that's where the problem lies here. They have spent money on Conte, but they need to continue to back him to address the right areas so that, then everyone can have a fair judge of Conte, because it's like, okay, all the problem positions are eliminated. Now we can sit there and judge you. But I find it very hard to blame a manager or judge a manager when he's working with players that everybody plays a bit of FIFA Football Manager. And if you don't, and you went to, the first people you would look to sell is these guys. So why do we expect the manager to get more out of these guys and stick with them when we all play video games and they're the first ones out of our team regardless?
I think it also just comes down to a lot of these problems have caught up with Spurs here. And now that these problems are catching up with Spurs for it, like you said, Conte sort of taking the fall for it. He's starting kind of taking the blame as well as kind of taking the heat for maybe a lot of these problems catching up with us. And that has to do with the poor players he has available. That has to do with the fact that in order to, bring in a lot of players, he has to sell a lot of players. And it's just kind of a tricky situation where Spurs kind of seem to think like they're going to have to go through a similar type rebuild where they have to get rid of a lot of players like they did under Pochettino, as well as, kind of go through those sort of expensive, decisions that they don't want to do under Conte. And they seem reluctant to have to do it again. And I don't know. That's what it also seems to come down to. And so it also answers your own question, like what I was just saying there, is that they seem to maybe more happy, or perhaps Pochettino convinced them of making that kind of expensive rebuild and making those kind of decisions of being more ruthless about getting rid of players, whereas they seem reluctant to do that under Conte as well as Mourinho. They don't really seem to have that trust to be able to go through that process with them. And that's where it seems to come down to, Jerome. I'm not sure if that's down to pressure or just their willingness to do this, again, with these managers.
But they've already shown, Jack, that when Pochettino did come out and start looking for the back end, they didn't want to spend the money. And this has been the problem, It's like everything's done half-heartedly. Even if you sack Conte tomorrow, you're still left there with the same problems that were there before Conte. It's kind of like everything's done sort of half-heartedly. And I said this on Tottenham TV. The sad thing is, this club has actually made an effort under Antonio Conte in terms of recruitment and bringing players in. They've made a good push and a good effort. But their previous mistakes pre-Conte is what's causing the problems now. And that's the sad thing. If they would have got them sorted out beforehand and they spent the money they did on Conte, a lot more fans would be a lot more happy right now.
And we're worried about whether the board would keep pushing, right? Like, are they going to, it's like, a pile of snowpack or something like that, right? Yeah. Are they going to keep digging through it? Or are they going to keep, digging away at it and, fixing the problem? Or are they going to give up halfway? Like, maybe a lot of people would. And that's another worry.
Fabrizio Romano, just quickly, he says, I know it was a mad saga with many twists, but nothing to worry about. Pedro Porro, he is a Tottenham player. So people, those who are hanging on for the announcement, you can go to bed, okay?
That's not official yet, though, is it?
But it's a lock emoji. He has a lock emoji on it, Paul, so it's okay.
Oh, dude. I think our recruitment policy, it doesn't matter how good or bad the player is. It doesn't matter what position they play in. It doesn't even matter how much they cost. It doesn't matter if they're 10 million or 50 million. The only thing that seems to govern what we buy is whether Daniel Levy can get 5 million quid off the asking price. That's the only thing that seems to dictate it. Jed Spence, probably Basuma, Pedro Porro. It's only if we can't get $5 million off a player, we ain't buying them.
Just quickly, I just want to read this out. This is funny. So Atletico Madrid's description of Matt Doherty, a corpulent 31-year-old right-footed winger with the capacity to also occupy the interior demarcation. He is safe from high and holds the position well in defense. And once he regains possession of the ball, his good long passes, which I haven't seen one, facilitates the creation of plays of attack. I would argue their chairman is probably worse than ours if they put out statements like that.
It's a good description of him, isn't it?
It's not
You're
true.
allowed to say anything these days. You're allowed to make up anything these days about a player.
Why do we let him go? He sounds like a genius.
We need to hire whoever put that out. We need to hire them to try and get money for the players we currently have out on loan. Get them to start sending off the scout reports to these clubs.
Yeah, Eric Dyer commanding in defence, sure-footed, probing.
I see it here. I do see it here. already all AI really is taking over. Transfer announcements will never be the same again. Looks
Here
like
we go.
they're
Let's share this in. Let's share it in.
okay.
I'm going to share it in. Let's everyone have a look at this.
What we got here?
Right, can everyone see this?
Ooh.
Yeah.
This is Porro's announcement video. They took
Hey.
12 hours.
Oh, I get it. Porro Zorro. Oh, you marketers, you earned your
That's
money
why
on
it was
that
so
one.
late, Paul, because they had to come up with such a genius edit.
Oh,
There you
So
are,
there you have
everybody.
it.
Pedro Porro is through the door, everybody.
Happy days.
There he is.
Finally, we can all go to fucking bed.
Oh, they really, honestly, it seems like they've had a social experiment when it comes to Pedro Porro. They put us through all this torture with the news. Like, is he coming? Is he not coming? That's been a social experiment. And even it's led up to this very announcement of his own signing. They made us wait till about, 11 o'clock at night practically until it could get announced. It really has been a real saga. It's been a real social experiment. This Pedro Porro one has.
I am excited about this signing. To be fair, I think that I do believe he's going to be all right wing back for about 4 or 5 years, and he's replaced Walker now. Finally, after how many years? So I think it's a great signing for us.
Yeah. I think he's definitely going to bring undoubted quality. Look, I'm not even going to bang into it. People have heard my points over the last couple of days. I mean, Paul and maybe Jack, because people haven't really heard your thoughts either. So, Paul, what's your thoughts on Porro and also Jack?
well, I don't know. I mean, seeing that independent write-up of Doherty makes me think we've jumped too soon. I don't know too much about Porro, so I'm just an open mind. I hope it works out, and I hope he's an upgrade, and I hope the lad does well. But you never know until they get on the pitch, do you? So we'll have to wait and see. I think. It's exciting, yeah, but fuck, we need a defender. I mean, Jesus, come on.
With Pedro Porro, Dave, what he's going to be bringing is basically what we've been sort of missing, actually, when going forward from Emerson, I think, as well as Doherty. And for me, it's that kind of that wicked ball in. I think it's been basically missing from the two of them. Neither, I think, Doherty or Emerson have the ability to either play the ball early. They don't seem to be able to pick their head up early, or do they really have the ability to cross it from deep or kind of cross it from those deeper areas that sometimes teams kind of force you out into? What I like about Pedro Porro is I feel like he can cross it from anywhere. He can create from anywhere. He can also be able to create when he's actually put under a bit of pressure. He also will be able to help us when we're, being pressed by teams like Arsenal and things like, and, sides like that, because Emerson and Doherty have not been helpful when we, get kind of put under the caution that sort of way. I think Pedro Porro is going to be a huge relief when we're kind of trying to build out from the back and trying to keep possession. We won't just have guys just kind of giving it away unnecessarily. I think he'll help us out in that department. So I'll be honest, I think it's just everything going forward that we've been missing from Doherty as well as Emerson this season. He's going to basically be bringing, Dave. And I do hope that he has a bit of a, defensive ability as well. I think we were able to sort of, kind of break it down and show that he's not going to really be a liability, I imagine, defensively. But perhaps the reason they kept Emerson around is just also because maybe he's seen as that more defensive kind of wingback now. And Pedro Porro can be the free bombing, attack-minded wingback that we've been sort of, praying and hoping for. I do think that he could sort of transform this season. I'm not saying he's going to propel us in the top 4 or anything like that, Pedro Porro on his own, but I do think he's going to transform this season because he could bring the best out of Sonny, Dave. You know, he could be able to find Sonny with those runs he might make into the box. Harry Kane now knows too, he can rely on a right wing back too, because Harry Kane sometimes is probably, you know, like when he sees Emerson or Doherty out there, is he really fully convinced that they're going to be able to find him in the box? Probably not. You know, he might just, you know, try to go pick up the ball from them. So now he has someone like Pedro Porro that can be able to find him and be able to find others. Yeah. And Kulusevski now doesn't have to, you know, babysit his right wing backs anymore either. That's a huge relief. So I don't know, Dave. For me, I think it's a huge relief in a lot of ways, and he's just going to be basically bringing everything that I don't know, we've been basically missing going forward from the two.
Yeah, look, I think you got to take. Although there's like we all know the issues of the centre back and stuff like that, but if you're just going to focus on the Porro signing, the good thing is that it is our number 1 target. There hasn't been any fannying about going for number 2, number 32 down on the list. It's been focused number 1. The only thing I would say is, did I really have to wait that long for that announcement video? I mean, I'll be honest. I feel like I'm the only one underwhelmed with the announcement video. I was expecting like fireworks and everything. It's just like, waiting all that long for like, it's kind of like they spent all that time putting it together to match Zorro or whatever that guy is called. You could have really spent that time looking for
I do see the picture of him holding the shirt. He's looking good, though. He is looking good with him holding the shirt.
What number?
I'm not seeing
24C says 23.
I'm interested. I'm not seeing anything yet.
What superhero do you reckon they could Doherty up as a Atletico Madrid, or a Hamburglar or someone?
I'll be honest, I'm miserable. I don't watch superhero films. I'm miserable.
I'm not a Marvel person, to be honest.
Can't let Super Doherty even cheer himself up. THFC till I die. With Doherty's contract being canceled, should Spurs do this with players that Conte say they're not in his plans? Great stream, guys. Come on, you Spurs. Come on, you Harris Army. Come on, you Flat Cap Army. Dermatron, we had a good conversation about that, my man, and it's exactly right. I think that's what we've been basically talking about this whole time. I want to see it happen to Sanchez. I'd like to see it happen to the likes of as well. You look at Dyer, Davies. I don't know if they're really going to be that ruthless to them, but they should have done it to them a long time ago in their case. The likes of Harry Winks, it needs to happen to. Plenty of players in this club. I think this is what, it's going to probably have to come to. And whether Spurs are going to do it to all of them, I really doubt it. But I do hope that they realize that they put themselves in the situation where they got to get rid of like 7, 8, 9, even probably 10 players this summer. And they're going to have to maybe come down to just, canceling contracts and things like that to really get what they need to done.
Here's one for example, perfect example. Lucas Moura. He hasn't been available all season. He's already made it clear that he's going back to Brazil, in the summer. Why aren't we ripping up his contract now? Why are we letting him hold a foreign spot in the squad, this, that, and the other? He's not going to offer anything between now and the end of the season. Rip up his contract and send him on. This is the problem. You got to be more ruthless. You got to do more of this. You acclimatize to shit. You get rid of it as quick as you can. It's that simple. Sorry, Paul. I got across you, my man.
No, it's all right. I forgot what I was going to say, man.
And then Michael, member for 9 months as a fan show member, says, we terminated Doherty's contract. What? He's absolutely freaking out about that one. And it's probably something that a lot of people are quite, confused or, something they didn't expect, because it's the ruthlessness that Spurs, we've been wanting them to do. We wanted them to be ruthless, but they just simply haven't been. He's taken the number 23. I like that, actually. It's, maybe the number of a creative person, the number of a creative player, the number 23.
What number was he at Sporting?
Number 24, I believe. That's Jed Spence's.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Kind enough not to push Jed out, maybe kind enough.
Yeah.
I think last sort of kind of question from here, it's sort of a bit of a summary sort of question. Summarize your thoughts. I imagine we've sort of answered this in a few different ways, but maybe just some sort of concluding thoughts here, guys. Spurs last season had a terrific January window that helped Conte push on to get us into top 4 with Kulusevski and Bentancur. Do you think this window has similarly been as good, or do you think this window, maybe will have a similar impact? I don't know. We'll go around the horn here, maybe. Paul, start with you.
Look, the Porro one is definitely a big upgrade, but we Kulu and Bentancur were bigger upgrades, over the likes of Winks and whoever fucking was up front. So, but really, I don't care about top four. I'm sick of this being the entire focus, and your measure of a success as a football club is whether you get into top four or not. I'd rather have some good cup runs, have some good cup runs, play some nice football, use this season, as an opportunity to experiment a little bit. So maybe that would harm our league position, knowing that in the summer with a couple of centre-backs, we could actually mount something quite tasty next year. So I'm all for kind of writing our league position off this year and going for some silverware and going for some, a bit of longer-term strategy and longer-term coaching and longer-term building instead of, the sugar rush, the shot in the arm we had last year, which did get us into top four, gave us high hopes for this year, thinking that we'd all be even better than we were last season, and we've not. We've been shit. Our defence has completely let us down immeasurably this year. So I don't care about top four. Look, I think it's an okay window, and maybe it's enough to get us a cup. Maybe that would be fantastic.
I hope it does transform this season. I hope it does push us in the cups, maybe even helps us out in this AC Milan Champions League game. Now we can at least be able to see Pedro Porro instead of Doherty or Emerson in a Champions League match.
Can Porro play in the Champions League match?
Yes, he can. Yes, he can. He'll be in it.
Okay.
For you, Phil, what do you think? Compare it to last, January transfer window, really transformed our season, really, helped us out tremendously. Will it have a similar impact this one? Or
I hope so. I think Porro, like I said, I think it'll be a great signing for us. I think it's probably a better window the last time with Bentancur and Kulu. I think they're obviously massive upgrades on Winks and our other forward options. But yeah, I think it is an okay window. Is it going to get us into top four and get us a trophy? I think it will. I'm always optimistic, me. So I think it's going to get us over the line with these two players. Next year, I think we'll kick on and get these centre backs that we need.
I also hope last season, what I remember is maybe the signings that we brought in could have a similar impact to what the signings last season did. I could see them being absolute, being, great players for us this season. But we did also benefit a lot last season from the players we got rid of. We did kind of, have a bit of a mixed, kind of window where it was as important to get rid of certain players that were a distraction, I think, from the squad and a distraction from Conte and what he wanted to achieve, as well as also bringing in players. And did we really do that this window? I mean, yes, we did want to see Doherty go. Yes, we probably knew Jed Spence needed to, be loaned out, but Brian Hill being loaned out too, it's not really, I think, going to have as major of an impact, maybe the players that we got rid of, I would say, this window as it was last season. But maybe the players we brought in could have a similar impact to what Kulusevski and to what Bentancur did. You never know, but Porro could transform the season, but it's hard to replicate what they did last season, that's for sure. But Dave, where do you stand on it? Is it, I think I know the answer, but is it going to have a similar impact to what it did last year, this January window?
First of all, everybody, make sure you listen up, because if you remember what I said last January against all the odds, completely different to what everybody was saying, I said them two signings will be enough to get us top four, and I said it means getting the players out on loan would also mean we can sign players immediately in the summer transfer window before we have to sell players, and it all came to fruition. So what I'm trying to tell you is listen closely, because I'm your transfer guru, right? But now this summer or this January transfer window, Jack, I don't think it's enough. I think we're going to be disappointed. It's like being promised a blowjob. You walk around the alley and there's a dog there. You know what I mean? It's kind of like you're going to get so far. I think you will see a bit of excitement, but ultimately, when you come up against the better teams, stop laughing, guys. But when you come up against the better teams, right, you're going to be let down. You're going to be let down, and that's where it's going to come and bite us in the ass. We might get to an FA Cup final or semi-final because of the luck of the draw, and a lot of the Premier League teams are gone and some of the Big Six teams are gone. We come up against United or City, we're being sent packing. We're going to come out of that empty-handed. Champions League, we ain't getting anywhere near a final. Might get over AC Milan. What are you going to do if you get a PSG Real Madrid? You're going to rip our back line asunder, you know? Premier League, yeah, we're going to beat the teams below us, but are we going to have enough to beat top 4 teams, top 6 teams? I'm not so sure. And reality is, last season, Kudo and Bentancur walked straight into the first team.
Champions League's out of the question.
Yeah.
Out of the question. I think we'll get through Milan because they're in poor form at the minute. Similar to us really, but I think we'll get enough over the line against Milan. We won't get as far as semis or the final. No chance.
We won't make top 4 either, though. Last season,
I think we will because I think
you're hoping.
I think we will because we've got a better team now than we had last year, and we still got into top 4. So that's the way I'm judging it really. With the FA Cup,
we had an incredible Hugo. This year he's in decline. Last year we had Dyer, who was on the best form of his life. He's nowhere near that this season. Same as Davies. And it's like we've only brought in one to affect the first team, but then others where they were exceptional last season, they're not this season. And it's in the backline. Last season our backline came together and we had to keep clean sheets. We haven't been able to do that this season.
Yeah,
will come back to haunt us. I warned everybody in the summer it was going to do it, and I'm telling everybody now it's going to happen again.
I'll get that. I'll get that. It's with these 2 signings. I'm hoping it'll galvanise the squad, and with Porro in the back line as well. I'm hoping it'll give us better defensively and more fluid football with him in the right wing back slot. So with the FA Cup as well, there's a lot of Prem teams that have gone out of it. I think that's the one competition that I think we can go for, and more likely that we can win. But I do think we'll get over the line and get top 4 and get the Champions League place next year.
I'm usually one of the most optimistic fans there are out there. I get called delusional, I get called happy clapper, positivity guy, everything else. I'll be honest, I want to sit here and do that. I just don't see it. Last January, I genuinely could see what the plan was and what was going to happen going forward. This January, I can't see the exact same thing I predicted last January. I just can't. I do think it's going to come back and haunt us. And I'm not doing this to be a Debbie Downer because everyone knows I'm one of the most over-positive guys there is. But I just don't see it this time. I really don't.
You don't need to make the same prediction you did, last season, Dave. It's just a different scenario. It's just a different situation. It's just different expectations. Yeah.
Last year, we were also fighting against, like an underpar Arsenal and Man United that were off it, and even West Ham were involved in the race for top 4 at one point. Whereas this year, Newcastle, Arsenal, and Manchester United have all improved leaps and bounds. They're like out of sight, literally out of sight compared to what they were last year. So even if we have improved a little bit, I don't think we've got enough to get into the top 4 because those 3 teams are in, really, you'd have to say. So we're going for 4th, and you're kind of, I don't know. I just can't see us having the quality to do it, which I'm happy with. And I'd rather, if we're not going to finish in the top 4, fuck it. I'd rather finish 9th. Then at least next year we don't have any European distraction because we ain't going to fucking win it anyway. And we might, with some centre-back signings, we might be able to put on a challenge for something and then get back into Europe when we're ready to do it. But at the moment, I don't think we've got the personnel to even worry about Champions League next year or Europa League or Conference. Just forget it. Let's try do something a little bit different because those teams are so far ahead of us now. It's going to take us another 1 or 2 windows to get near them again.
Put
Yeah.
that eggs in the
I mean, are
in
they?
the FA Cup basket. Yeah.
Are they so far ahead of us though? They're 3 points. We're 3 points away from them. Do you know what I
It's
mean? From Newcastle and from whoever's in fourth,
United.
Man United. So I mean, Newcastle, can they sustain this form? You know, have they been in a top four challenge before? I don't. They haven't. They haven't for many years. So we have that experience behind us as well. With Man United, Ericsson's out for 3 months. I know they've got Sabitzer, but he's going to take time to, get going. So it's going to be close. It is going to be close, but I think we will scrape into it.
I just want to leave everybody something to think about as well. Then we'll do the super chats. Is you look at Arsenal, right? If anyone had an excuse to go, oh, we'll leave 1 position short or 2 positions short, they did. They're 10 points clear, But they didn't. They went and got centre midfielder in Jorginho. They went and got Kiwar. They went and got Trossard, and they probably done enough to improve their squad. And I now truly believe they're going to go on and win the title because I said injuries, they'll have a problem, but they've addressed that. So if they do get injuries, they've got good players to walk in there. We are chasing them, but yet we're the ones coming out short. How does that make sense?
When they have more of a reason to maybe be blindly optimistic, or they have more of a reason to be kind of blindly kind of thinking that, you know what, like, we're actually quite good. Like, do we really need these players? Do we really need these improvements? Like, look how far we've got with what we have. In fact, if we found ourselves probably, let's say, at the top of the table, I'd imagine we probably would have, not improved the squad. I imagine that we probably would have thought, we're fine where we are. We don't need much else. Who needs to improve the squad when you're already top of the league? I actually think we probably would not have improved the squad.
We did it in the top 4, man. We finished in the top 4, and the ball. We just do it again with those players. We don't need to do anything different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For once, I actually sort of agree with Leighton Evelyn. For once, this is the only time you'll ever hear that, by the way, Leighton, so don't get hard at.
Steve D, get in here too, my man. Daniel Larson, member for 9 months. Fan show member says, what a shambles this club is in, not knowing how many players they have out on loan. He's actually, I think, referring to the Doherty situation, saying it wasn't even the club being that ruthless. It was just the club realizing that, like, they already had so many players out on loan. They need to figure it out as soon as possible. So Daniel doesn't even want to give the club that much credit, for being ruthless. And fair play to you, Daniel, because they're going to have to do it in the summer for me really to, for that really to be right, for that really to be true, for them to have that sort of ruthless streak in them. And so you're probably right, Daniel. They just did it because they needed to get it done. But you would say selling Matt Doherty or getting rid of Matt Doherty, at least, is what I wanted to happen at the end of the day. Big up there, Daniel. William Kelly saying it will be enough to get us the FA Cup and Conte will be staying, but get ready for the sacking of Paratici. I've been saying that even though I do defend Paratici, I think his sacking is kind of needed to come with how everything has gone, despite, maybe the work that he's done. It just kind of needs to happen. But Antonio Conte, the FA Cup, Pedro Porro, what are we thinking here, Phil? I mean, is it enough?
Well, is the squad enough?
That's what William Kelly's saying. He's saying the improvements maybe this January, it will be enough for the FA Cup.
Yeah, I agree with him. Yeah, 100%. The sacking of Paratici is inevitable, I think. I think he is going to go soon. It's just a matter of time. But yeah, I'll say again, I think this squad is good enough to get us to that position. And I think, with these Prem teams that are going out in the FA Cup, it's if we get some kind of a lucky draw, and then maybe get City into the final, then who knows? Who knows?
I just hope we put all the eggs in the FA Cup basket. That's what I hope, Mr. Kelly. Faz Radfar saying key at the moment is to keep Conte to get there. I think he's saying, in order to, keep pushing and in order to keep, progressing in the way we are, the point is also to keep Conte. Have we done that with the business we've done this January? I don't think so, Faz. It doesn't look like we've probably convinced him very much. So I guess it's up to now us finding a way to convince him throughout this rest of the season / in the summer. But it really is trending more towards Conte just being, kind of deciding just to leave and, not renew his contract with Spurs. But I don't know. I guess we'll just have to continue down that saga there, Faz, because I don't think they've done enough to convince Conte of, giving his trust to Spurs and giving his future to Spurs at the moment.
Jack, it's like you coming to me and saying, Dave, if you want to keep me on the Irish Hotspur, go out and buy me a pack of yellow peanut M&Ms, and I come back to you with green sour Skittles, and I try and convince you to stay. You know, it's mad, man.
When in fact it's quite easy to find the yellow peanut M&Ms. I know
it's
exactly.
Like, well, Jack, if you close your eyes and you sniff an M&M, you'll be able to taste it when you eat the Skittles. It's not good enough.
It's from the same factory. You won't taste the difference. Exactly.
Yeah.
Pick up fast, my man. And then William Kelly saying here, we will win the FA Cup, Davey. We are massive underdogs in the final, which makes me believe it will be Man City. How do you see it going, Dave, in the FA Cup? I mean, Man City is the team that we probably do feel most confident against. If it were one of the bigger teams that we had to get matched up with, we probably would rather it be Man City than Man United or teams like that. But I don't know. What do you make of this, Dave? Can William Kelly, he wants you to believe.
How quick a year goes by. Last year, I was getting pelters from everybody. This year, people's completely disagreeing with me, and I'm on their side where they were last year. It's madness. But look, what I would say is, look, I do believe we'll get to a semi-final or final, but look, we've seen it in the last game. You could be 2-0 up, pissing yourself at 45 minutes, but look what happened in, 5-10 minutes inside the second half? The game was gone. The game was over. And it's all because of that back line. It's not good enough. And it's like, look, I don't see it. I actually was speaking to you about it, Jack. I was like, last season, the reason why we were able to get the better City is because we showed them out wide and we're allowing them to cross the ball in the box, but didn't have anyone to go and get on the end of it. This season, they have Haaland. What happened? You know, and that's the difference. Other people have improved their strike force, but our defense is still the same. And they're not performing at the same level. Look, I love the optimism. Hopefully I can muster some up or find some from somewhere over the next week or so. And I admire Phil and William Kelly for having the belief. And I'm usually with them. In fact, I'm probably usually leading them. But this time, I don't think we've done it. You know how long I've been talking about a centre-back. You know, and I still stand by what I say. It's going to keep costing us until it's sorted out.
And then also he follows up by saying Conte wants trophies, so he will prioritize the FA Cup. I hope he puts all his eggs in the FA Cup competition. That's how I see it, William Kelly. I don't think, like Paul kind of said, that the hope for top four, it's going to be a struggle. It's going to be a dogfight to try to get back into top four. So you just rather that I think we put more of the eggs in the FA Cup basket and maybe see if we can get, lucky and try to get back into top four again. But I'd rather us finish outside top four in hopes that we put all of our efforts into that FA Cup, just get the trophy, kind of situation off our back, try to, resolve that. And also, if we want to keep Conte, it's best to start winning things and kind of get that sort of winning culture, I think, instilled into the squad. I think even, who is it, Dave? Mickey Hazard told us, I think Steve Perryman has said before at Spurs, it's that winning that first trophy kind of sets the foundations for more of a winning culture around the squad and around the club in general. And I think if actually we put all the eggs in that FA Cup basket, we certainly could do it. Maybe with Antonio Conte.
I would prefer an FA Cup to top four, definitely.
Me too.
Because I think if we did that, then it would give us, that our mentality would change with these players. If we just managed to just get a trophy over the line, it might just put us in good stead for the next few years. That's the way I see it.
With top four also, like a part of the reason for it was just getting into Champions League, and also when Arsenal weren't finishing in Champions League, it was quite nice to kind of constantly be finishing up there. But now that they're likely to win the league and everything like that, just don't even see any novelty, any sort of kind of bragging rights with top four. Like there's not really any sort of allure or kind of specialness to it or anything like maybe there used to be for me, William. I think it's all the FA Cup is for me this season. Crocodoc's in here. I want to dream, believe we can build a squad and convince Kane and Conte to commit. Then Tottenham show that they can't even count to 8. Hunker down, lads. I don't think the future is too bright. Dave, he wants to believe like the rest of us Crocodoc's, but it's too difficult to at times, especially in these moments. It's hard to dream up a scenario. It's hard to dream up a plan where we get out of it.
Yeah, because look, we don't do enough in the transfer windows. We never come out fully equipped, fully ready to go. We're always looking at it and going, oh, disappointed we didn't do this, disappointed we didn't do that, could come back to haunt us. So you can't really have any optimism. But also, we also knew we had to do as much as we could this January to please Antonio Conte. I don't think we've done enough. I really don't believe it. Like, we've done one player to affect the first 11 and one player to have an option off the bench. It's like, but it may improve a problem that we've had, which is attacking down the right-hand side. We've had a problem there this season, and that improves that. But it doesn't improve the rate we concede goals. And that's where the problem has ensued this season. That's where the problem lies this season. We're going 1 or 2-0 down before we even score a goal, and then we're asking Harry Kane and Son and Kulu to pull a fucking mushroom out their hole and go and, find 3 or 4 goals from somewhere, a bit of magic. It's like, you can't keep asking these guys to do it. I said this last summer. People are like, no, Dave, you're crazy. I predicted this was going to happen this season, and we still haven't done anything to address it. And if you don't do anything to address it, why would things just magically change?
Crocodiles, it's hard to believe that the rebuild also can be done, because Spurs have gone through rebuilds before and kind of only scrapped it up and kind of left it halfway done and moved on to a different one. It's really hard, Crocodiles, to imagine that we can, even if you dreamed up some dream rebuild, dreamed up some way that we get out of this, it's so many steps and so many ways to, so many steps along the way that, do you really trust this club? Do you really trust Spurs to go every step of the way to get it done?
I do see a plan there, though, Jack. Let me just say that. I do see when Paratici's come in to now and the signings we've made, right wing back is now finally addressed. Left wing back, Perisic and Doherty is addressed. Centre midfields, I'm happy with the options there. Maybe you could argue one more. Forward line, happy with the options there. That's improved. So we are not too far away from really having a proper squad to be able to have a go. We're not that far away. But the big question is, are they going to do the last bits that are needed this summer transfer window and do it to a standard that can propel us into a league title race going into the season, to be a dark horse in the Champions League, to have a squad that's good enough to be able to rotate to get through the early round of the stages of the Cups, but also a squad able to compete in the latter stages of the Cups. We're not too far away. There has been some good recruitment from the windows that put us in to a decent position going into the summer with bringing in centre-backs and goalkeeper. But if we don't finish inside top 4 this season, that could easily unravel. And then you would think the quality and the calibre of player that we contract here will also be less than what we could get them when we're in the Champions League. So they're taking a huge gamble. And this is my problem. Why not look to try and shore that up now? And then in the summer, say we're gonna address the rest of the issues, and we're really gonna make a go for it. And this is the sad thing: we've done a lot of groundwork, but are we going to finish it? And could it be sculpted because we didn't sign a centre back this January? Yeah, and it could very easily go that way. But, does Antonio Conte see what I've seen with the recruitment, that you're going into summer, you're actually not too far away. But what we've got is just that costly. It makes you look a lot further away than what you are.
Big up, my man, Crocodiles. And then William Kelly with another one. Appreciate you, William Kelly. He says, when we win the FA Cup, that will bring a winning mentality, and Conte will want a massive part of that. Spot on, Jack. How good has the cup drop been for us? Absolutely perfect. It's been paved. The path has been paved for us. It's been made very, very easy for us. Let's be honest, William Kelly, which is sort of, again, further incentive to put all of your eggs in that FA Cup basket, because normally it's not made this easy for you. It's sort of also kind of how it kind of, I think, works, these cup competitions. It's not really like every season it's your season. You got to have a little luck on the way. You got to have some things kind of, work out for you. And I think it's been that way this so far for the FA Cup. We've kind of been continued to be given sort of, let's say, some of the easier kind of opponents and some of the easier fixtures. It's going to eventually come to where we're going to have to be able to come up against a big team and get the job done. But I just back ourselves, William Kelly, and I hope that Antonio Conte knows that if he does put a lot of eggs into that FA Cup basket, and if he were to deliver Spurs that trophy, he could go down as an absolute, cult hero. He kind of already has a bit of that sort of, cult-like, personality, already with the Spurs fan base. But I think he'd go down as a cult hero for us for basically the rest of time if he were to deliver that Spurs trophy, especially the one under an Enoch and Levy ownership that a lot of people have been waiting for as well in terms of the FA Cup. And I'd encourage him to put all those eggs in that basket. I really would, William Kelly, even if that meant maybe sacrificing a bit of league position, because I just think it could really actually turn it could turn a lot of fortune around. It turns the mentality around. It could maybe even develop that sort of winning culture that I was talking about. But I don't know, Paul, I did talk to Mickey Hazard about this, and he said that's what kind of needs to happen at Spurs is get that trophy, kind of ducked off our back, get the winning mentality back into the club. And that's how things start to sort of, work itself out and turn around.
Well, Mickey Hazard would know. I mean, he's Mr. Tottenham, that guy. So he's right. It happened in the in the early '80s when I started watching Spurs. We won an FA Cup, UEFA Cup, and by that stage the club had been sold to the first in a string of terrible owners, and the wheels started falling off. And we started going into glide mode, and now and then we'd catch a little thermal, win an FA Cup in '91. But apart from that, there's not been much. But I agree with William, though. I saw a press conference with Conte a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about getting a cup for Harry Kane, and he seemed quite. He wasn't like humming and hawing. He was saying, "Yeah, we could do it." Not like. In the past, he's talked about, we have to struggle to challenge for something important, or, being a bit vague. He was kind of saying, there's no reason why we can't win a bit of silverware for Harry Kane at Tottenham. And he seemed quite excited about it as well. So I think if push comes to shove, I think Conte would go for a cup rather than league position. And maybe it's a blessing that his contract is up at the end of the season, because if he had another year or two to go, that would be like a sackable offence according to Levy. But when you've only got a few months to go, you're really going to sack a manager just because they won you a cup? I don't think so. So, it might be a good way. If anything, I don't know if it would be a parting present for Harry, or it would be the sign for Harry Kane that maybe it's worth sticking around at Tottenham. But either way, I don't see any downside at all for going for the FA Cup at the expense of the league. I think that it puts smiles on everyone's on faces, and Mickey Hazard's right. You've got to start winning somewhere, haven't you? Doesn't matter if it's a League Cup or, Disney Cup or whatever the fuck it is, some cup, something where, Captain Davison Sanchez is taking the cup away from Prince Charlie, raising it aloft, and we're all cheering for Sanchez.
It's just, for me, it builds the foundation, Paul. It just builds the foundation, I think, for a lot of things that have gone wrong at Spurs. I think it's also just gives the rest of the fan base, it gives the club, it gives Conte, it gives a lot of people confidence that maybe they're headed in the right direction, because sometimes it's hard to know if you're headed in the right direction without maybe that bit of silverware or, a final or whatever it may be to show, right, that you're, going towards the right direction. And I think maybe putting all the eggs in the FA Cup basket could be something for Conte to show that, it is possible to get to a final. It is possible to push on with this team. And it could also just help sort of kick the club into gear. I just think it could do us a lot of good. That's how I sort of look at it. But William Kelly, Dave, Phil.
Yeah, I was just want to bring up a point that Dave made about the, if we don't get into top four, the drop off of player that we're going to, that's going to be interested in our club. If we don't get that Champions League position, it's going to be detrimental to next season, because we won't be able to attract those players. So I think it's as important getting top four than it is an FA Cup as well. I think they're equally as important.
Yeah. But we've been getting top four, and we haven't been signing big top four players. So
yeah, well, this is what needs to change with the owners, isn't it? They need to change their tact. They need to change their strategy within the club. And it's got to happen. It's got to happen, especially with these top six clubs that are going to, like Chelsea, they're spending fucking left, right, and centre. You know, Liverpool are going to strengthen next year. You know, he has to strengthen next year, else it's going to be riots within the fan base. Honestly,
the problem is, right, we got top 4 last season, but we had to make up a squad this season. So we had to spread our net far and wide and make that money stretch to bring in 6, 7 players. And if we didn't, we wouldn't have got through the injury crisis we had this season, the amount of games we had coming thick and fast before the World Cup. But this summer, you can actually just sit there and spend the big money on the big targets because you're not looking to accumulate as much as you were. You're not looking to fill as many holes in the team as much as you were. So therefore, the reason why I say what I said about going for the bigger targets, and if we miss out on top 4, we won't get them, is because this January you should be able to have the money for a Skriniar or for a Bastoni, for a Gavardia, and you should be able to go and compete for them. So if we don't make top 4, that takes that category straight out. And it's such a shame considering you're finally in a position for the first time in 3 or 4 years where you're not looking to make your money spread. And that's why I say it.
Yeah, I agree.
William Kelly wants you to believe, he says, people forget Leicester won the title with a bang average team. We can get the FA Cup start. Believing, boys. Come on, Davey. He wants you to believe, Dave. It's the foundation. If we get that FA Cup, Dave, if we push this, season for it, especially with the path being made easier, like we described before, I think it could actually do us a lot of good, and maybe could also gel the squad, gel Conte with maybe the club and everything also, right? He could get that sort of, maybe title as sort of the guy that delivered the FA Cup under the Enoch and Levy ownership, be a bit of a cult hero in that regard. You could see a lot of benefits of it.
I hear you, but I'd counter that. Last cup final we were in against Man City. What cost us?
Well, in that case, it just showed that the ownership didn't care very much about, the cup.
But what cost us in the last final? Like, yeah, look, I believe we'll probably get to a final. Do I believe we're going to have enough to win it on the day? Of course not. The players' mentality, some of them that we're still persistent with, will shit themselves before a ball's even kicked. The defence cost us the last cup final against Man City. We're still persistent and asking to use some of the same players that played in that game, by the way. And the reason why we couldn't create chances is because we couldn't pass and build out from the back with what we've got. So why would that change in this cup final if we get there? It's not.
And also, though, for me, I feel like Jose would have helped deliver, at least giving us a better chance. But it just showed that it really didn't mean all that much to the club actually being in that cup final. The fact that they sacked Jose beforehand, they had priorities elsewhere.
Here's the difference, right? When we used to get there under Poch, I had pride. I couldn't wait to see Dembele, Toby, Jan Vertonghen, Harry Kane, Son. But if they couldn't deliver it with our best team, why would I believe that Eric Dyer, fucking Sanchez, Davies are going to be able to deliver it for me? Of course they're not. With Leicester, they had a goalkeeper who was in flying form, Casper Schmeichel. Jamie Vardy, who scored goals. Riyad Mahrez, who's gone on to Man City. Danny Drinkwater had an unbelievable season, went on to Chelsea. Same as N'Golo Kante. Look at the career he's gone on to go and add. The point is, we say they had a cheap squad because the squad cost was so cheap. But reality is, their fucking recruitment was spot on. They were good players, and that's why they won the league.
I bet they didn't let in 30 goals in the first half of the season either.
I hear William. Look, I hear William, and I want to have the optimism. But the reality is, everyone was saying to me, in the summer, Dave, come on, get off the defenders back. They're going to do well this year. And they were wrong, and I was right. And I'm not going to change my opinion now. I still believe I'm right.
I think you turned up that alleyway looking for a happy time, and instead of a dog, it's Eric Dyer finishing off Daniel Levy, and you're next in line, man.
I actually can't believe I said that earlier, to be honest.
Cheap happy ending, Paul. Cheap happy ending. Well, everybody, I think we're going to leave it there. Really good discussion on this one. Of course, not the happiest or the most delightful of discussions. Sorry, yeah, we actually had some images.
just show them the deals for the day, and then we'll end off.
Brian Hill.
There's still 25 minutes to go in the window, isn't there? Or have I got my time wrong?
No, it's
11 o'clock.
11. Scotland is 12, isn't it?
Yeah.
Brian Hill, 6-month loan, no option to buy here, everybody. That is one of the moves out of the club currently. He is headed over to Sevilla. No option to buy, though, on a 6-month loan. Jad Spence is headed on a 6-month loan with no option to buy either. Everybody, he's headed to Stade Rennais over in Ligue 1 to join the likes of Joe Rodon. Matt Doherty is headed over to Atletico Madrid. No longer a 6-month loan. He's just an Atletico Madrid player now, basically. No attachment to Spurs any longer, everybody. Matt Doherty is no longer a Spurs player, I think, in any regard whatsoever. So that one actually changed. And then also in terms of the incomings from this season, we did bring in the likes of Arnaut Danjuma on a loan fee of around £2.5 million with an option to buy of £27 million with a 6-month loan. It is a short loan. We're looking to get the guy from last season who got around 21 goal contributions in all competitions. 26 years old. It's actually Danjuma's birthday here today, everybody. Happy birthday, Danjuma.
Happy birthday, Danjuma.
Happy birthday.
Left winger, plays as a striker, 5 feet 10 inches. He looks taller than that, actually, in my belief. I think he looks a bit bigger than that. But Pedro Porro, that is the one that has been sealed today. It is actually a loan with an obligation to buy, not an option to buy. Loan of 5 million euros plus an obligation to buy of 45 million euros. It has also been the case that, or it's been released that Marcus Edwards' sell-on fee has been reduced to around 35% from originally 50%. And then the contract with Pedro Porro is 5 years and it's until 2028, everybody. So that's all the information with all the ins and outs of this transfer window. It's now been basically officially shut.
There you are. It's done. Look, I want to say a massive thank you to Paul and Phil for giving up your evenings to be able to come on and have a conversation with us. I really, really appreciate it. I know both of you work really hard, so to give up your free time, I really do appreciate that. Jacko, massive thank you for you today for helping put this together and everything else. Massive thank you to myself for being a fucking legend, and a massive thank you to all you guys out there, for tuning in and supporting us the way you do. Look, window's done. Now we can just park that. We can move on and let's get behind the boys and see what the rest of the season entails. And we'll see you all back here tomorrow. We'll have Ben from We Are Tottenham TV on with us, having a discussion on all things Tottenham. So see you then, folks. We'll let you get to bed early. You can relax, go into bed knowing that Porro's done. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs. And Conte we trust. Come on, Porro.
Or Zorro, according to Tottenham.
Everywhere we go.